motion and a fake, and he's hit as he throws, and it's intercepted. Jaron McClain had it fall right in his hands. It was Braden Utley who delivered the hit on Sanders, who's thrown his third pick of the day.
Welcome to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Jerome Ford, big seam. Jerome Ford is revving and tearing it up. Touchdown, Cincinnati, 79 yards.
Sikkim 365 Radio is presented by IdealMRI.com. High-quality MRIs for $497 or less. IdealMRI.com. Your health is important, so is your budget.
For the Panthers, Pickett, a very good runner. Don't sleep on those legs. Oh, he faked the slide. Sauce time. Pickett. Did that work? Touchdown, Pitt.
The 3 o'clock hour is sponsored by Waco Custom Marketplace. Meats, sweets, Texas treats, and a cut above the rest. 425 Lake Air Drive, Waco.
The redshirt freshman quarterback has his team up 7-3 and threatening again. Throws for an open receiver. Touchdown. Drew Estrada. Wide open.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
And here we go, yet another show. On December the 7th, the famous day in the history of this world, Pearl Harbor. And today, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports, Pearl Harbor the 7th, and of course, Army-Navy coming up on Saturday, which will feature quite a bit towards the end of the week. Craig Smoak to my right, Paul Catalina to my left. We have Jack and Armstrong here today in the studio, and thank you already for those of you who have joined us in the chat room. Lines open until 3:30, and then former Baylor quarterback Bryce Petty will join us at that time. Phone number 254-339-1122. That's also the text number as well. Dave Aranda, Jeff Traylor, Blake Anderson, Kalani Sitake, coaches who we've had on this show, are 4 of the 13 finalists for the Eddie Robinson Coach of the Year. Luke Fickell, among others, Jim Harbaugh. It is a spectacular list, and really one I've already put in my vote. I'm a part of this. I was voting earlier today, and believe me, it is absolutely Kirby Smart, who had the great run until Alabama. Kyle Whittingham and what he's done at Utah. Amongst Billy Napier, now at Florida, who's at Louisiana. So that is Dave Aranda. And I think he has as much of an argument as anybody else to be a part of this list, not to mention maybe win this thing, although I don't know if he will or not.
Yeah, I think Luke Fickell probably should be the favorite just because he's done something that we previously thought impossible in getting a group of 5 team into the college football playoff. But Dave Aranda has as good an argument as anyone because of what he's done from a 2-7 to 11-2 and a conference title.
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be up for consideration, so it's good that he is. I mean, he should probably be the Big 12 Coach of the Year, quite frankly. But Mike Gundy and his team had a great run as well, obviously. But, yeah, I mean, Aranda's the man. He is. And, you know, it'll be nice once these coaching searches stop and the offseason actually begins to see where everything has fallen. And, you know, I expect him to be here in Waco, and I know that he and his staff are out on the recruiting trail the last 24 hours or so. Have already picked up a commit for 2023 from a tight end, and, you know, just going and checking in on some of their pledges, like Trey Emery today, defensive lineman, and just making their rounds. So I like that Sean Bell put out a message yesterday on Twitter of, you know, sorry that some other coaches have already met y'all and been out on the road, but we kind of had a game to play. And, you know, he got to use that as some extra ammo of, you know, the championship and all of that. So we'll see how it pays off for them. But, yeah, I mean, Aranda should be in every single coaching conversation that has to do with Coach of the Year award. I mean, doing what they did from 2-7 to, you know, now looking at, historic year unlike any they've ever had. I mean, if you think about it, they've won Big 12 titles before, but how did those get followed up? What happened after those championships? Bowl games that were disappointments. So now you've got the Sugar Bowl, you've got Ole Miss. I know Ole Miss probably isn't going to have Lebby. He'll probably be in Norman at that point, and, you know, who knows what other, you know, things fluctuate between now and then. But it's a great opportunity for both schools and a great opportunity for Baylor to not only win a Big 12 championship, but, you know, they've done that now and go win a Sugar Bowl title. That would, I think, put this season over the top of many in Baylor history, if not all of them. Yeah, there's no question about that. And here's the thing. Dave Aranda, if he was to win it, if Luke Fickell wins it, if Jeff Traylor wins it, if Jim Harbaugh wins it, you could name a lot. There would be no argument for me. Yeah, if you're a Baylor fan, you feel like it should be Dave Aranda. But then again, perhaps what Luke Fickell did, and they were expected to be good. We just didn't know how elite good by winning Notre Dame's game, the game with the Irish. But as Paul, you said, breaking the threshold into the semifinals. But Josh Gaddis, go ahead.
Being so good that a group of people who had their mind set up before the year started as to what they wanted to do had to change it is an impressive feat.
Yeah, you broke through the threshold. Josh Gaddis, offensive coordinator, wide receivers coach at Michigan, named the Frank Broyles Award winner of the best assistant coach in America. Jeff Grimes was a part of that banquet last night. They announced that earlier today. Josh Gaddis, and obviously Michigan, with what they've done in this semifinal against Georgia, he wins that award.
You know why he's the coach of the year is because he did it with a quarterback who, you know, is anybody talking about Cade McNamara for any awards? No. And, you know, I know that they had the running back had 5 touchdowns the other day, and he's the backup, I guess. But they did it with depth. They did it with running the ball. They did it with a great offensive line. They did it with a quarterback who, again, is good. But, you know, I hear people talking about Matt Corral. I hear people talking about, you know, Kenny Pickett. I hear people talking about Bryce Young and C.J. Stroud. People don't really talk about Cade McNamara. All he did was win all the games but one. So Josh Gaddis certainly deserves a lot of credit for that. Yeah, and, you know, and then somebody D. Wees just put this up on the chat room. Don't forget, now it doesn't affect this year, but Jim Harbaugh took a pay cut last year during COVID, a 400 and some thousand or whatever it was, a pretty good pay cut. That's not why you win Coach of the Year, but at the same time, I'm not going to give you my vote because it's one of those things you'd rather it come out, and when it does, I'll tell you who my top 3 were. But it was hard.
It's normally pretty easy with 1 or 2 names. To me, there could have been 6 or 7 of these that I could have voted 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. This is a young man who put out astonishing numbers defensively. I love him. Will Anderson Jr., linebacker from Alabama. Some of the most awe-inspiring single-season stats for TFL, sacks, all that I've ever seen. He won last night. He was the Bronco Nagurski Trophy Award winner, the linebacker from Alabama.
How much do you think that Bryce Young being in that and also being at Alabama hurt his Heisman chances? And maybe Aiden Hutchinson too, because you're not really going to put 2 defensive players on your list.
I don't think it mattered because I don't think they're going to vote a defensive player anyways.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm sure it probably split some votes, but I don't think that, Bryce Young not being in the mix is going to mean that all those guys vote for a defensive player. The Heisman Trophy to me is a bit archaic at this point. I don't get excited for it the way that I used to. I don't think that it's the all-encompassing award that it's never really been, but that it really should be. And I don't know why there's a resistance to want to expand it and not make it a quarterback, wide receiver, running back award every single year. I know that's what is the easiest to pay attention to, but especially in a year like this, when you have the guys that you have defensively and a year offensively where there's not a ton of guys who have just lit it up. I mean, yeah, Bryce Young's been great. Kenny Pickett's been great, so on. But, I mean, any more so than, a lot of other quarterback performances we've seen over the last few years? I mean, not necessarily, but meanwhile, we're seeing some defensive performances that are unlike, some other times that we've seen. So, I kind of lost faith in the award with the whole Ndamukong Suh thing years and years and years ago, and that just kind of told me what I needed to know a long time ago, and it's not really changed since then all that much. So, yeah, it is what it is. I mean, they might as well just call it an offensive award, but certainly you could make a great case for a defensive player, and there's been many years where you could make a great case for a defensive player.
The best thing I saw somebody tweet out was that, and this, I mean, I don't think it would affect Smokey because Smokey's an engaged voter, but there are a lot of voters. There's like 900 people that have votes.
Yeah.
And that's too many. Because
I saw a couple people announcing their votes, and I'm like, how?
Well, first of all, they'll lose their vote if they did. And I did
not announcing that they have a vote, and I was just like, how?
People may say that about me as well. Thank God I was honored.
But that's part of the problem with Major League Baseball is too many people have votes. And I think, for all the consternation about the Pro Football Hall of Fame, and we have John McClain on today, and he's on that Hall of Fame induction committee. They do it the best way, and that here's the people we're voting on. Right here, let's vote on it, and let's do it in this room. And it's not 600 different people voting on it, which means things get caught up in the wash. And with college football, you're talking about players from all over the country that are eligible for this. This isn't voting on the NFL MVP where you've got to pull from 32 teams. You're talking about 100 teams. Reasonably that could have a player that, might be good enough for the best player in the country, especially when you expand it out to just not wide receivers, quarterbacks, and tight ends.
Well, you're talking about 115 Division I schools, and some might have 4 guys.
Yeah.
I mean, Michigan has Bryce Young. Williams.
Bryce Young plays for Bama.
Alabama. Bryce Young, and they have Anderson, and not to mention there was 1 or 2 other linemen. Who's the big offensive lineman? I put him on my All-American vote. He's so good. He's so good I forgot his name. I'm old school. I will announce mine after, of course, it comes out Saturday. And then, of course, we'll have the show Monday. We can discuss it. Colt Barber sent this out earlier today. Armstrong, do you have that graphic? This is from the weekend's conference championship games. These are the numbers. The SEC, Alabama, Georgia, 15.3 million. Big Ten had 11.6 million. The Big 12 at 11 o'clock start. Now, there was nobody else playing at the same time, but that's a big number for them. 8 million. Pac-12, 4.2 million. That was Friday night. The AAC, 3.4 million, and there's the ACC, of course, which has had a tough year. It was Pittsburgh against Wake Forest, 2.6 million. That's a really nice number. I'm not just focused on the Big 12, but that's a really good number. There was nobody else playing, but it also was an 11 o'clock start to get that number, the third highest of all the conference championship
I have a feeling
games.
that there's an email going out to 3 schools in the ACC that basically says, get your S straight.
Yeah.
I don't know, though. I mean, it's not like the Big 12 had 2 power brands in their championship game. I mean, you can say, well, they had playoff implications, and that certainly played into it, but it was an 11 o'clock kickoff. So, yeah, I mean, if for whatever reason you'd want to poo-poo that number and try to, like, shoot holes through it, okay. I don't know why you'd want to do that, honestly. I don't know why it matters that much. But if you want to do that, okay, it was the only game on in town, and it was, with playoff implications on the line and all of that. But it wasn't as though it was two big brands. There was no Oklahoma in this game. There was no Texas in this game. And, yeah, they had the third best viewership of the conference title games. I think the Big 12 is what it is. I think it's the third best conference in the Power 5. I do. I think it's the third best behind the SEC and the Big 10, and then the ACC, and then the Pac-12 trail them, in my opinion. And I think that's going to grow stronger with the teams that they're bringing in. I know they're going to lose Texas and Oklahoma at some point, but shoot, we still don't know when that is. That could still be 3 years from now, for all we know. Now, the likelihood of that is obviously slim, because it's hard to imagine them holding on for that long. But, I mean, it is possible. And we heard Bob Bowlesby on Saturday when he talked to us. He talked about, we're going to have 14 teams for a little while, and that's the plan they're trudging ahead with. But I think there's a lot to like about the Big 12. It's almost like if you just line up quality teams and watch them play football, it's a good brand of football to watch. Whether you're, of the opinion that, obviously the very outdated opinion that somehow still some media members have, that it's just a no defense. Like, I saw people talking about no defense in the Big 12 after the game Saturday. I was like, get your credential pulled, dude. You're not allowed to talk about college football.
Yeah,
you're not allowed to talk about college football if you said anything about the Big 12 not playing defense in the last year. That's idiocy. But, yeah, I think it's a good brand of football. Obviously, they've got to continue growing their brands, but there's a lot to like about a Baylor or an Oklahoma State, and that was one hell of a game on Saturday. Now, I know some people thought it was ugly, but in terms of just drama and keeping you attached to it, that was a hell of a game. Like, I was spent. I didn't even play in it. I was spent afterwards. So that's great for the Big 12. What?
It was 21-16. One team scored 6 points in the first half. The other scored 0 in the second. So you tell me. There's no defense.
Yeah. Well, here we go. It's bad offenses, Paul, and bad quarterbacks.
I saw something where somebody said now they've gone back to the big. You know what it was? Is a hell of a game.
It was football
sloppy
game
because teams forced a lot of that, and there were some mistakes made as well. Now, so that's the conference championship. Some of the numbers. Colt Barber put that up. Big 12 meetings are going on in Las Vegas. Mack Rhodes, Baylor athletic director, will join us Thursday this week at 3:30. Normally on Tuesdays, and the group of one, or what is chapter one? They won't get any true voting power until July 1st of 2023, but they have been very much engaged in all of what's going on. The meeting's going on right now in Vegas and probably wrap up by sometime at the end of the day. Mark Whipple has resigned from Pittsburgh and will not coach the Panthers in the Peach Bowl. He, of course, part of the architect of what Kenny Pickett put together with Pittsburgh. The third highest scoring offense, 43 points a game in his third year. Now, I saw this story on Twitter. Then I looked it up, Johnny McGonigal, who we've had on talking Pitt Panther football, and then I saw a couple of notes after that he might have been contacted by Nebraska. I don't know if that is true or not if you're a Pittsburgh fan, and we do have some, because if there's a Pittsburgh fan on the chat room, then there's a West Virginia fan cussing you and vice versa on the chat room, but I don't know if that's the story or not. It may be he's up for another job as well.
No, he definitely is rumored to be taking another job, so that's a big part of it, and Clemson is the job that I saw him linked to. And I think there might be another that was mentioned, but that was the last I saw was, he's clearly got something lined up, and I think it might be Clemson.
No, that would be a boon for Clemson, whose offense was not great, and it might also mean that Tony Elliott might be taking the Duke job.
Yeah, I mean, I think talking to Alexa, I think pretty clear that that Tony Elliott looks on his way out, right? I mean, it just seems like the timing of it all with Venables and everything like that. So, yeah, I mean, it's going to be a big season of change at Clemson. There's no doubt about that. You're going to probably have to replace both of your coordinators, and, Dabo's going to have to start doing things probably a little bit differently without, when you've had Venables and Elliott for as long as you have, it's just automatically going to be different. So, yeah, that's going to be interesting to see, and, we'll see where he ends up. But a lot of movement obviously going on right now with this regular season wrapped up.
We will hear from Bryce Petty, former Baylor quarterback, who has a podcast with others that he does now. He'll join us at 3:30. He was the only quarterback to lead Baylor to Big 12 championships in 13 and 14. Now, Blake Shapen, along with Gary Bohannon, are part of that conversation. And now, to the calls. Make it very, very emphatic. What is your opinion? What is your question? What is your comment? As we line up right now on the BetUS caller line.
All right, let's go to Marshall in Fairfield. Thanks for your call. You're on the BetUS caller line.
Hey, good afternoon. How y'all doing, fellas?
Good, great. Thank you.
Okay, so I got a quick question for you. In Baylor's football history, what's the most iconic play? Would it be the RG3 pass to Terrence Williams to finally beat Oklahoma, or would it be the 4 goal stops this weekend?
It's a great question.
It's a great question.
Marshall.
And you know what? I think that is up on the site, Sikkim365.com in the premium section. I haven't looked at that thread, but man,
I think that it has to be RG3 for right now because of just what that turned everything into. I mean, that turned them from being they were still a laughingstock, quite frankly. And man, if you had any idea growing up in Texas, whenever Baylor would get brought up in football, if they ever got brought up in football, it was always that's going to be a blowout win for whoever they're playing. They were a laughingstock. They were, and just no respect for the program growing up here in Texas. And that was just kind of the team that you knew was the bad team that everybody beat and never won any games. And so for RG3, in large part, along with, obviously Art Briles and his staff and a lot of other players. The receiver on RG3's throw, Terrence Williams, for that game to turn into a Heisman Trophy and turn into the first ever win against Oklahoma and the style that it was. And
to build a stadium.
And to build McClain Stadium, basically. I think that so much came out of that you got to give it to that play. But I think the play on Saturday, the goal line stand, the second goal line stand, mind you, which is incredible, that's got to be like 1B, because to me, the thing that I've been hammering home for the last week and even leading up to the game was it's one thing to get to these games, it's another thing to win them. And there's a difference in programs and the ones that win these games and the ones that just get to these games and they say, oh, well, at least we got to it. And 2 years ago, Baylor got to this game, and they lost to Oklahoma in dramatic fashion. Nearly won that one, but just didn't have enough. Oklahoma made the plays at the end to win at AT&T, and it was a feeling of like, well, they'll be back. But at the same time, you knew Matt Rule was probably on his way out, so it was like, oh god, it's just a really weird kind of period. But that they got there, and that was an accomplishment in some way. But they lose the game, so it's an empty feeling. And then you turn around and there's the Sugar Bowl, and we know how weird that buildup was. That was just odd. And then they go and they lose that game to Georgia. So it was like, okay, they had a good year, but like, what did they really do in the grand scheme of things, right? Like, they made appearances. They didn't win anything. This team's already won a Big 12 title. They won it. They won it outright. They won it against the team that beat them up the first time around, and they won it in the most dramatic fashion. To freaking get a goal line stand, 4 straight downs inside the 5 and on the 1, and to stuff them 4 straight times, unbelievable to win a game like that. That play on Saturday, or that stand on Saturday, has got to be way, way up there because of what it meant and what it could lead to. But the Terrence Williams catch and the RG3 throw, that sparked everything.
To put that in perspective, and Paul, you remember this. Who's the guy that helped build this? The guy that was monitoring the stadium being built.
Brian Nicholson.
Brian Nicholson said that as soon as RG3 threw that touchdown pass, his phone started blowing up. Now we're going to have to build a stadium on campus. It was that because it was leading to that. And it won the Heisman Trophy.
Yeah.
And it also then allowed Baylor to beat Oklahoma for the first time ever. That's
what I was going to say. There's a building right over there that exists because of that one play.
Yeah, but there might be a bunch more that are built off of the plays that were made on Saturday, and that's the type of win that takes you to another level, in my opinion. They leveled up. I keep using that phrase. They leveled up on Saturday.
Yeah. Jason in West Virginia, thanks for your call.
Hey, guys. I've been a caller multiple times on the show. Kind of want to talk to you guys about the conference realignment. Knowing, if I remember correctly, and I remember hearing this right, the new teams that we've got coming in from the ACC, they're going to be on the schedule as of next year. Is that correct, or the following year?
Year after.
The year, it would be 2023 season in which that would be locked in.
Yeah, 2023. So I'm kind of curious. I'm wondering if the Big 12 and Bowlesby's kind of waiting to see how, before they go into round 2 of inviting other teams in, how 14 and 16 is going to work on the schedule as far as the Big 12 goes. And then number 2, do you think Manny Diaz is going to get another opportunity at a head coaching job? And if so, what do you think about Virginia being a good fit there?
All right, let's go to Manny Diaz second. Let's talk about Chapter 2. I think that there's a lot of that. I do believe that things slowed down. I still believe. And we are looking at a Chapter 2 when it comes to the Big 12. 2 things have to happen. Texas and Oklahoma have to leave because you cannot have 18 teams. And that's what it would be with the new
Correct.
4 and Texas and Oklahoma. So that's one thing. And the other is the television contract. And they're not waiting on the Pac-12 anymore. As we told him, Bob Bowlesby didn't confirm CBS, but on Saturday with us, he confirmed there was other media negotiations going on for the next TV contract. But that's a great question about Chapter 2, and I think you make a good point about seeing how things settle and also how they work.
Yeah, I could definitely see them kind of waiting on a test run to see, just what all the moving pieces are. I definitely think that could be something that they're thinking about. And we asked Bob Bowlesby on Saturday. You asked him about Chapter 2, and he would not obviously confirm or deny anything, but he did say that they are still looking around. I mean, he basically confirmed that they're not done looking around. And so for anybody that might doubt that there's possibly a Chapter 2 still at this point, he didn't say that outright, but he also did not deny it in any way and said that, again, it's just there's so many moving pieces. So, yeah, I think that the little test run is probably a direction that they're going and just kind of see how all that works. And then, who knows what it looks like in a year from now, right? Or even 2 years from now. Who knows what some of these schools look like or what some of these conferences look like with the TV deals and all that. So, yeah, TV deal obviously plays a huge role in it as well.
Yeah.
As far as
Manny Diaz.
Yeah.
Paul, you know that ACC better than I do, and I don't know, Craig, you got any ideas about Manny Diaz as well? I got a feeling he'll be a head coach, and I would think there's enough openings out there where he could get something here within the next 2 to 4 weeks.
Well, he was going to be the Temple head coach, and maybe that's the level he needs to be at right now to prove that he can be an effective head coach. And I've said over and over again, the problems at Miami far outreach, and we'll talk about it with Manny Navarro at 4:30 today, far went beyond Manny Diaz. Miami's going all in and good for them, but I really don't think he's going to be a big time program unless he wants to be a defensive coordinator.
Virginia?
I think they've already kind of got their guy.
Okay, all right. Last call, and then we break. Come back with Bryce Petty.
I think Virginia's a really good job. Man, that's a good spot. I don't know that I'd go Manny Diaz, though. I think if I'm them, I would go a different direction. But I do think he'll be a head coach again sooner rather than later. I don't know that I would bank on it being this soon and this quickly and in the same conference, playing Miami right away. I just think that maybe it takes a little longer, but he will be on a staff next year, no doubt, and probably a head coach quicker than we think.
Yeah. Diane in Waco, thanks for your call.
Hi, guys. I just finished watching the Big 12 game on TV for the first time because I believe you may have mentioned yesterday I was lucky enough to be able to go where I met a couple of great fans, Jason as well as Barry, at the Sikkim 365 pregame. It was awesome. And the atmosphere was so great, and I just wanted to congratulate the Pokes on their great season, and I really look forward to seeing them squash Notre Dame at the Fiesta Bowl. I'd like to use a phrase that Craig just said, because Notre Dame always just makes an appearance. They haven't really won anything. To me, their schedule kind of a series of ongoing exhibition games.
Yeah, Diane, that's kind of how maybe a different way to look at it, because again, they're not in a conference, and when they do get in a conference, they're obligated to join the ACC, which I'm sure the ACC would love. But they are. It does feel like that. Like, oh, hey, Notre Dame's playing this team. It's almost like IMG Academy in Florida.
Yeah, but I mean, a lot of times when you see Notre Dame line up against a good team, you probably pick against them, right? I mean, when you see them line up against Alabama or Georgia, typically you're not picking Notre Dame. At least most times it feels that way. But yeah, I mean, it's weird because they're not in a conference. It is kind of strange, but they do get a lot of opportunity. That's the thing, like, you get those opportunities, you have to take advantage of them, right? And that was the big thing. Baylor did not take advantage of opportunities in the past when you really think about it. You win a Big 12 title, you turn around, you go lose to UCF in the Fiesta Bowl in embarrassing fashion. You have a great season, you turn around, you go to the Cotton Bowl, you lose to Michigan State in embarrassing fashion, right? You have the great season, you appear in the Big 12 title game with Matt Rule, you lose the Big 12 title game in dramatic fashion, you turn around, lose to Georgia in the Sugar Bowl. So, I mean, Notre Dame's a great program, and they've had their fair share of big opportunities and not quite taking advantage of them. But I mean, they're always in the mix, and I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with this. Basically the same staff, but just a big change at head coach.
I'll tell you what, Oklahoma State, they play without Jalen Warren. Baylor played without Gary Bohannon. Both teams had players out. It was exactly how we have seen so many games in the Big 12 this year. It was a street fight. At times, it was a back alley street fight. And I thought both teams put on a hell of a show. Turnovers, both teams had bad turnovers. And I think, even at the end of the game after the play ended with McVay and the running back, Mike Gundy, you saw him on the sideline just waving his team. He knew. Gut-wrenching loss for him. And then later on was actually walking around, not just to Dave Aranda to shake his hand, but to others as well. It was two teams that have great respect for each other and might be a budding rivalry, who knows, before it's said and done.
Yeah, I've actually written that. I think that Oklahoma State-Baylor could be a great rivalry in the Big 12. I mean, it's already got some elements of that, but as far as like a headliner type of rivalry, they're absolutely both in the position to be that, to be the not – they're not going to be Texas, Oklahoma, but as far as like a great rivalry in the Big 12, Baylor, Oklahoma State have all the makings to be able to be that moving forward. And to back up your thoughts, Diane, I thought Oklahoma State obviously had a tremendous crowd. And you know what? It was great to be around some people who aren't looking down their noses at you all the time, like you don't belong in the same stadium as them playing for a championship. I thought there was a nice mutual respect between the two teams that's often missing when you're playing a couple of other brands, unfortunately. And I love fans from those fan bases too, but there was something really nice about it, the respect level between Oklahoma State and Baylor, and it was a great atmosphere. It was awesome.
When we come back, he's been a part of a couple of Big 12 championships as the quarterback at Baylor. Bryce Petty joins us, Sick on 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
Richard Carr, Buick GMC Cadillac, got a lot of great deals going on right now over at Richard Carr, and of course the chip shortages have been wreaking havoc a little bit at dealerships all across the country, but Richard Carr has been handling that as best as possible, and that's why they've got the priority list for you to sign up on and get your car sooner than everybody else. It's that inbound vehicle list. There's cars and trucks that are a little bit delayed, but don't worry because they're coming, and Richard Carr is already receiving deliveries of new cars and trucks every week now. And so contact the dealership, get your name on a new Buick, GMC, or Cadillac as they're being shipped, have your name on that inbound vehicle list, and you'll get your car or truck as soon as they arrive. If you're looking for a pickup, get a Sierra from Richard Carr. It has it all, power for a work site, or the luxury interior and drive for a night on the town. And Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac has much more than just Sierras. They're the home of SUVs. They got more SUVs than any other dealer in the area. 11 SUV models to choose from with dozens of trim options. Richard Carr is the one-stop shop to find that perfect SUV for your needs, whether it's the fun and nimble Buick Encore, the sophistication and luxury of a Cadillac Escalade. Richard Carr has the SUV you need in all sizes and price ranges. So call now, come by now, or go online to find the perfect SUV for your family. Richard Carr is your local hometown dealership for those in the Waco area. So give them a chance to earn your business with great prices, free oil changes on new cars and trucks, and superior service after the sale. Richard Carr, owned, operated, and run by loyal and proud Baylor Bears, and they look forward to seeing their Baylor friends at the dealership or in the stands.
American Bank has been serving Waco since 1952, and we're just getting started. Hi, I'm President and CEO Dana Hassel. Over the past few years, we've been busy investing in new technology to give you the best banking experience possible. We've also expanded our downtown branch and built 2 state-of-the-art buildings at our Woodway and Bellmead locations. With bright open lobbies plus fast, personal, interactive teller machines, everyone in Waco is now just minutes away from face-to-face banking. Visit us today and see how we're invested in serving you at American Bank. Member FDIC.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Boots add protection. Good boots help you climb better and move forward faster. And when your son or daughter steps into the boots of a U.S. Army officer, they also learn how to lead.
In these boots, they'll gain more confidence with expert training in one of more than 150 occupational specialties. In these boots, they'll stand a little taller and lead a team with diverse backgrounds and areas of expertise to successfully accomplish whatever challenge comes next. In these boots, they'll earn respect with valuable experience from day one that will give them solid footing for success into the future. Highly qualified candidates who earn a spot on our team can receive comprehensive health care coverage, college tuition assistance, and a bonus of up to $40,000. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be part of the Waco community. We're a small family business here in Central Texas. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important. And unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. And that's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through this difficult time. So if you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. You can schedule online in minutes at idealmri.com or call 833-IDEAL-MRI.
There are 26 letters in the alphabet, over 600,000 words in the dictionary, and just 3 of them said together can change everything. Let's order pizza. Those 3 words lead to dough made from scratch and 3 fresh signature cheeses that blanket golden crust in a heavenly melt on Marco's Pizza that'll blow your mind. So visit Marcos.com to order and stop by Marco's Pizza in Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Let Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'em125 for a 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'em200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'em125 and SICK'em200.
Welcome back to Sick'em 365 Radio.
This segment on Baylor Athletics on Sick'em 365 Radio is brought to you by Richard Carr Buick GMC Cadillac. Learn more at richardcarr.com.
Baylor is now a 3-time Big 12 champion in football. First time they've actually had the game, and they won it. 2 years ago, of course, Oklahoma got them when Chris Platt was chased down just enough, and they did not win. But back-to-back years in 2013 and 14, Earl Campbell, Tyler Rose Award winner, the inaugural winner of that award, Bryce Petty, joins us, Baylor quarterback who led them to 2 straight Big 12 titles. What did that mean? Bryce, first of all, great to have you with Craig Paul and David Smoak. What did that mean for the former players to see that moment on Saturday?
To see what moment, Smokey? I'm confused.
The moment of winning a championship for those who helped build this foundation back 10 years ago or so.
And I tell you what, it means a lot. We always said it, right, Smoke? It's leave it better than you found it. And for those kids and what they've been through, the last couple of years, to just see where that program has continually trended, to where what I said, on my show the other day is that Baylor is starting to become a destination for athletes. That's what the coolest part is. I think, seeing those kids go out and blood, sweat, and tears, all the off seasons and summers and fall camps, and then put that all on the field, especially when no one really believes in you. I think that's just been such a mark on our on our program is to do things, for the guy next to you, because no one else really wants you there, believes in you. And I think that we're starting to become a place where people do want to be in Waco, and there's an expectation to win. So I think it's just, being a small part of something bigger, kind of means the world to watch those kids develop and continually, again, set a new standard.
Bryce, with Texas and Oklahoma leaving, I mean, there's all these rumors that were around Dave Aranda, and I think one of the things that a lot of people didn't consider with Dave Aranda is that in 2 years he might be the coach at the football power of the Big 12, right?
Not the big, yeah. I tell you what, man, we are the school in Texas. When you look at football, men and women's basketball, volleyball, baseball and softball coming up. I mean, we are the premier school in Texas. And when you have that, as you guys know, from a recruiting standpoint, Texas is top. I would venture to say top 3, if not top 2, state in the country. And so I think that Coach Aranda is definitely putting himself in a position and a place to make our football program, to your point, Paul, the spot in the Big 12, and that's going to be a beautiful place coming in, because I to be totally honest with you, I think I hear a lot of different comments about what UCF and what Cincinnati and BYU, Houston, those schools are really good schools, and I think it is going to. It's going to provide a different picture, obviously different demographic in terms of recruiting. But if you can be that hub in Texas, you are going to be good for a long time. And that's what I know that Coach Aranda wants. For him to say that he wants to stay here and be a part of the program, grow with the program means the world, and ought to mean the world to those kids, they're going to be, committing and playing for Baylor.
So, Bryce, there's Baylor. They get out to the early lead. Blake Shapen's playing his butt off, and I'm sure we're going to, get into more about just Blake in particular with you. But here comes Oklahoma State roaring back, and there they are, right there on the goal line with a chance to win the game, first down and goal. And the Baylor defense, for the second time in the game, the second half, stuffs them on 4 straight plays, and obviously Jaron McVay makes a Hall of Fame Baylor legendary play. I mean, what was going through your mind as Oklahoma State got that first down and goal, and subsequently what followed with the defense just stepping up in the most major of ways?
Well, I mean, dude, as an offensive guy, I'm screaming to take time out. I'm like, there's no way that you could say, and it has nothing to do against our defense. It's just really, really hard to stop a team 4 times in a row on the 4-yard line. So, I'm sitting there screaming, God, we got to take time out. So for those guys to stop, really, it's 5 plays from the 8. For them to stop that offense, and they've got some weapons, for sure. This is a Gundy coached offense, so they definitely have weapons. But to stop them 5 times, 0.4 times inside the 5, it was just incredible, and it's such a cool story for Jaron McVay. No one can ever take that away from him. That it was 1-on-1. It was my will versus your will. To be a 6-year guy, walk on to make a play like that it was incredible to watch as a fan. I know everything that he's been through. Dreams late at night, knowing that he belongs, and just give him a chance. And so, anyways, for that to come to fruition for him, I was so happy. But you gotta give the hats off and tip the cap to the defense, or tip the cap to the defense, because that's just such a fun unit to watch all year long.
Bryce, after you left, and then, of course, we know in 2016 there was a coaching transition to Jim Grobe, interim, and then here comes Matt Rule, and he eventually takes Baylor to a Big 12 championship appearance, and then he leaves, and here comes Dave Aranda, and here they are. They win the Big 12 title. You're right. It's a destination location. It's no longer a stepping stone. Some might still feel that way, but that's okay. What is it about the Baylor football program that is so damn resilient?
Yeah, to be totally honest with you, I think there's just a locker room mentality of I know that when we were there, guys were pissed off about not necessarily where they didn't go, but just the fact that when you go to camps and other places where guys are getting recruited by at that time bigger schools, the Texases and the A&Ms, the Oklahomas, there's a chip on your shoulder about not getting recruited to certain places like that, and I think that's just kind of permeated through that locker room and really sustained as kind of being a character trait And that's kind of what I was alluding to earlier. When you talk about setting a standard, if your standard from a leadership perspective, talking about the Terrell Bernards and the Jalen Petries and the Gary Bohannons of that locker room, when there's a certain standard to where you're expected to make plays, you're expected to put it all on the line and do it not in the sense of because football owes you something, but because you owe your teammates something. I think that really resonates with a lot of the guys, and it definitely trickles down, kind of cascades down to the freshmen. So I think it's just such an identity in that locker room that's come from a couple of classes before the guys that we're seeing now, and I'm hoping that continues to sustain, and that's the culture that I think Aranda's building there as well, to where guys just get to embody the term resilient. I think it's such a unique character trait in this day and age to be resilient. Life does not care who you are, how many stars you have, what your last name is. And that's one of the things I've just absolutely loved about football. And so when you can embody that and really make that your identity as a locker room, I think you're going to go, pretty damn far.
Is Blake Shapen's confidence a result of Blake Shapen or the coaching? More, which one you give it more to?
Man, I don't know if he just, takes a lot of sleeping pills or what. But man, I never had that junk, man. I was always nervous as all get out, and he just comes out there and kind of sassays out on the field like, this is just another day. Seeing him in his first action against Kansas State, and then his first start against Tech, and then starting the Big 12 championship game, all that, really leaves me excited about the future for Baylor football. But more importantly, just what he said after the game, the fact that this is Gary Bohannon's win, it was just, kind of my time to step up. I mean, that just shows a lot of character and honestly a lot of maturity, I think. So, Blake Shapen, buddy, my hat's off to you. I think you got a hell of a quarterback and one that, is going to make Baylor football exciting. Because it's still, and it's funny that a Big 12 championship is won 21-16. We had a lot of great defensive play this year from a lot of different teams, but this is always going to be an offensive-driven league. I think, even though we got, obviously Aranda's a defensive guy, and Venables is coming in at OU and a defensive guy, but it is always about the offense, and so I think that Blake Shapen and what car he's about to drive, not from an NIL perspective, but from an actual unit perspective, I think we're in really good hands, and I'm just really excited to see his growth.
So, Bryce, continuing on with that, I mean, he obviously got dinged up in that game, and when he did, the offense changed a bit. Now, you got to give Oklahoma State's defense some credit. They're there for a reason. But what did you see in particular from Blake in these last couple of games, just in terms of his arm, his accuracy, scanning the field, those types of things, even knowing when to take off and run with it? What kind of stood out to you about what you have seen from his actual play?
Yeah, I think he's a gifted thrower. I think he's a natural thrower, and it obviously comes, a lot, being a two-sport guy, playing shortstop on the diamond as well. But, when you watch him throw the deep ball with just a lot of accuracy, that's stuff that and especially as a backup, you don't really get a whole lot of reps with a one. So, the first drive against Tech, hitting Tristan Everett down the sideline, right in the breadbasket. I mean, that's just a natural thrower. So, it was, and then the touchdown to Tyquan Thornton in the end zone. I mean, I was telling Dad about that this morning. They were hiking in Santa Fe, so they missed it. But the Tyquan made a great catch, but I mean, that ball is only where Tyquan can catch it, and I think that's something that as a fan sometimes you don't really understand kind of the nuances of ball placement. But what I have noticed is his ball placement, even in tight zones, throwing away from defenders. For zone coverage versus man coverage and things like that. Just it really shows how gifted he truly is, and he really hasn't even had a chance to develop yet. So keeping Coach Aranda is a huge thing. I think keeping Sean Bell's an even bigger thing, because what he was able to do with Gary Bohannon, develop him into the quarterback that he is, and we've all witnessed over the year. What he's going to be able to do with Blake Shapen too, I think, leaps and bounds better than what we've seen in these last, 2.5 games. And that was a pretty damn good, menu to look at. So I'm really excited about, what he's going to continually do as he grows into the leader of the offense. to be the face. There's a lot of things that come on and off the field with that, and I think he's got the shoulders to do it.
Bryce, when you were at Baylor, Art Briles was the head coach, but also as much the offensive coordinator. Then there's Philip Montgomery, who was the offensive coordinator, plus a staff that, of course, has now had success elsewhere as well. And Levy, with what he's doing at Oklahoma, Ole Miss, at least for now. Who do you spend more time with, the offensive coordinator or the quarterback's coach?
Yeah, I mean, look, when I was there, Coach Manny or Montgomery was the OC, and we had, Coach Briles and Coach Montgomery ran those meetings, so it was, a lot of time spent with both of them. And then, when Kendall took over, I was obviously done, and then when you get into the league, it's a lot more quarterback coach than it is offensive coordinator, but. An offensive mind and a quarterback, you have to be an extension of your offensive coordinator. You have to know why he's calling plays, in certain situations, what he's wanting, out of the execution of that play. And so there's a lot of time spent, together with your offensive coordinator. But and I think that's why I like Sean Bell so much. I think he does such a good job of really dissecting that for Coach Grimes, who's obviously, Bulls winner, so congratulations to him because he did a hell of a job this year. But, being able to spend that much time and again, knowing and understanding, dissecting certain plays, what this coverage versus this coverage means, getting through progressions, getting through reads, that's when the time spent with your quarterback coach is paramount. So, I know it's kind of a lengthy answer to your question, but I think a lot of it kind of depends on, how the head coach likes, is he a culture guy? Is he just going to be, kind of out there man in the fort, or is he, intricately involved? And I've kind of been with a couple different, personalities in that way.
We were alerted to this fact on the show yesterday by a former intern of ours who writes for Clemson. She said that, this is the first Big 12 title that you haven't had anything to do with, Bryce.
That I haven't had anything to do with?
Yeah, because you were the quarterback of the first two, and then now this one, this is the first non-Bryce Petty Big 12 championship.
Man, I tell you what, I didn't have a lot to do with the first two either. It was man, I tell you what, it's fun. Like I said, it's fun seeing us back. Kind of on top of the Big 12. And so I would have absolutely loved to have, championship games, obviously in 14. So I think that's why we got jumped. But it's such a good thing for the conference to have championship games. And it's, especially as a player too, it gives you so much to play for, coming down the stretch. That's really what makes, November so much fun. So, I think I enjoyed this one about just as much as I did playing. Obviously I'd rather be out there. But I don't miss being sore, yelled at, or tackled. So,
oh my. Bryce, how big was it? I've been kind of hammering this home just for them to win that game. I mean, obviously it's important to win and to win a Big 12 championship, but they got there 2 years ago and fell short. And it's like, okay, well, the program's coming back on the upswing, and it's good progress to at least get there. But to get there and win it, like how much more important is that? Not only because, it wins a championship, but just the confidence, the build that it creates with just a big win like that. Getting over the hump, how important was that, you think, for this program?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's huge for a couple of reasons. I think one, second year under Coach Aranda, it was huge for guys to buy in. When you buy into a program and you buy into a head coach and what he's preaching, it's one thing to buy in; it's a whole other thing to see it. For those guys to win is seeing it. It's seeing what he's been preaching the last year and a half, 2 years. And then I think just for the confidence moving forward. Man, it's knowing that was the grip year in 12, when we beat, or in 2011 when we beat Oklahoma at home. I mean, we'd never done that before. So as soon as you knock, that off the mountaintop, then it's any other team. For these guys moving forward under Coach Aranda, where I think, again, the common, theme here that he's going to say is that, man, we can stay on the top of this mountaintop because we've been there before and we know it. And then, secondly, I think just for recruiting, I mean, I think that we're entering in a place where you got 1 year left with Oklahoma and Texas in the Big 12. Have fun in the SEC, suckers. But this is where we really start to kind of establish a dominance that, I think that, the OU, the 6-time, back to back to back, whatever Trevor Knight keeps saying on our podcast too. I can't stand it when he says it. But, when you get to create that dominance, you can't have 6 unless you have 1. And I think that's what a huge piece of that is okay, now we have a goal to get back there every year, knowing that you can have a loss to TCU, you can have, kind of a competitive maturity, which I keep going back to because I just love that statement that Coach Arena made after the Oklahoma State game. But that competitive maturity, I think, is really where guys start to see, things come to fruition that you had, in spring practice and in fall camp and all the good stuff. So,
Bryce, I do have a brief NFL question for you, and this is just on last.
Good, because I had a brief stance. So.
Yeah.
Oh God.
Well, look, you played in the division with Bill Belichick, who I think coached the best game I've ever seen last night, in that he threw 3 passes and won a game. What was it like preparing for a Bill Belichick team when you were with the Jets?
You never knew what the hell was going to happen. Bill, and even the 3 years, and I kind of go back to crazy enough, my first year when we had Eric Decker and Brandon Marshall playing on the outside for us, and we were really rolling. That was, Chan and Fitzpatrick. We had a really good offensive unit my first year there, and Bill came out and put, and at the time, if you remember the name, Malcolm Butler was their number 1 corner, just came off of the big Seattle pick, was their guy, really followed number 1 everywhere, which at that time for us was Brandon Marshall. So we played him at home, for the first game, and he put Malcolm Butler on Eric Decker and then doubled Brandon Marshall. It was kind of one of the most insane schemes that I've ever seen. But just in watching how Bill has created such a dynasty within that franchise, doesn't do it flashy. I think, again, kind of like what we're talking about with standards, and one of my good friends is Nick Folk, who's the kicker up there. Where I was actually just talking to him today, but the way that he does it and how he's done it, there's such a standard of winning to where they're not going to go, pay big free agents and all that kind of stuff. And I mean, you see who Mac's throwing to. I mean, he's not throwing to, I guess Antonio Browns, Odell Beckhams, and these guys that are kind of high caliber guys on the outside. DeAndre Hopkins or Devontae Adams, that kind of thing. He does it with guys that just are blue chip guys, and so you never really knew what to expect on the defensive front, other than the fact that it was all about kind of dismantling tendencies. Everything's about tendencies. Everything's about schemes. Who you are from 3rd and 1 to 2 to 3 to 5, 7 and 9, and then 10 plus. He would just change up every scheme he had, and was constantly thinking about that. So it was always fun just because of what, his name, but at the same time too, it was never fun because, man, it sucks when you go out there and you've got nothing. But the other, I played my 3rd year. We had from 1 to 5 the previous 4 weeks. They were man coverage across the board. Cover 1, 3rd and 1 to 5. Cover 1. We get out there, and this was when we were, I think this was the last game. So we were 3 and 12, no chance of making playoffs at all. They actually went on to win the Super Bowl that year. So there was no reason for him to do anything outside of that man coverage, and came out and played zone from 1 to 5. So all of our 3rd down plays from 1 to 5 were straight up crossing routes, man beaters, and came out and dropped 8 just cause. So just things like that, man. You kind of like, man, thanks, dude. I'm, 2nd year, playing at anyways, even a 3rd year guy, and we've got no answer to anything. So it's just, it was always fun, preparing for him, knowing that you didn't know what the heck to expect. So.
How much fun, and we'll leave you alone, I know you got to go. How much fun has this podcast, you and Trevor Knight? I've watched some of it. You guys have great rapport. You're absolutely unafraid to say things about each other or anything else along with others. How much fun has that been?
Yeah, I mean, Smoak, I've got a fat head poster of you on my wall, and that's all I've really tried to be. Is what would Smokey do? But in all seriousness,
we lost him. No, we got to get this answer.
No, I'm afraid to.
No, here we go. Hold on.
All right, let's try to get it.
We got time.
Yeah.
We got time.
Yeah.
You got to finish that answer, Bryce.
We lost you. You have to finish it.
I tell you what, Paul, I think you did that on purpose. I know that you did. I have a fat head of you up on my wall as well. Please don't be jealous. But in all seriousness, it's been so much fun to be, to go from a player to just kind of a pure fan, and then have the opportunity to really engage and watch football, to talk about it. It's been really, really fun. It's been fun to watch programs intently. It's been fun to, tell my wife on Saturdays, hey, I have to have my phone, laptop, and TV going at the same time because, I've got a show on Mondays. Don't bother me. But I tell you what, it's with Trevor, it's always been a blast, and we do, thank you, Smoak, for saying that we are really good friends, and it's always fun to be around, guys that you love and guys that love football, and he's both of those for me. So we've had fun poking at each other, and especially kind of where this OU thing has. The Lincoln Riley thing was nuts, and watching Baylor come up, and then the Gary Patterson thing. So there was just so much, juice, I guess, or meat in this first season for us to do this. It was a lot of fun to kind of get each other's takes on it and how we saw it. So I love doing it, and can definitely see why you guys have enjoyed it as much as you guys have too.
When we started this show back in April of a year ago, and then all of a sudden in July, Texas, OU, SEC, and all the things that you just brought up, it has been unbelievable. It's just exploded, and I can imagine what it's done with two guys who played the game. Thanks for your time, Bryce, as always, man. Good luck, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you guys so much. Y'all be good.
Bryce Petty with Craig Smoak, Paul Catalina, and David Smoak on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365. I can't even see it. Your hand's in the way. Yeah, okay. There is a story by A. Ward Sports. He's with Letterman's Row, covers Ohio State, Austin Ward, that Ohio State, and this was on one of the couple of guys in the chat room, thank you for bringing this up, targeting Oklahoma State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles to be their next defensive coordinator. Now, talking, and also offering some different things, but if you are Ohio State and you are struggling on defense, and Grinch, of course, had been gone with the Oklahoma, you never know. I hope Jim Knowles stays at Oklahoma State. I hope he stays in the Big 12, but it does look like that's some pretty serious smoke.
Yeah, I mean, it'd be hard to pass up a job with Ohio State, right? I mean, Oklahoma State's a great program. If he stays there, I'd love that. He's a tremendous coach, but coaches move along, especially assistant coaches. And, yeah, I mean, that's very interesting. That'd be a great hire for Ohio State, obviously. Be a massive loss for the Pokes. And man, he did his thing on Saturday, and not so much in the first half, but still at times in the first half they did, but certainly in that second half. So I'm not surprised. I mean, I would think every program in the country who's got a defensive coordinator opening one of their first calls would be to Jim Knowles. So yeah, I guess we'll see what happens there, but that'd be tough. That'd be a tough loss.
We're happy today because it's another day, it's another show, and Armstrong Sims is upright. It's good to see him as a part of the show today. After yesterday, Paul saved his life with Benadryl, and so we will have Armstrong to celebrate most of the day, and Jack gets to do what he does, which is behind the scenes amazing with graphics and much more, and working on that top 5. All right, when we come back, the 4 o'clock hour, at 4:30 today, we're going to discuss the University of Miami with Cristobal and the new coach. And today, during his press conference, he started speaking Spanish during some of his answers as well. Brian Kelly, you wonder if that would have been something he would have tried to do. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pickup Outfitters, CreateACommotion.com, 220 Lake Air Drive. Jay Errett, the owner. If you have tools that you want to protect and you have a pickup truck, yeah, you have the bed. I mean, you have the cabin where you could put those in. But if you want to and want to protect them and keep them from somebody else seeing them or grabbing them, then obviously you have to have a bed that protects anyone from being able to see what you have in your pickup truck. At the same time, it could be hunting gear, fishing gear, whatever it is, to keep those peeping toms out of sight of what they're looking for. Also, bed liners available. Spray in and lay in at Pickup Outfitters is a great place. I always try to, if you think about something unique for Christmas and you have somebody that you know or you love or is a family member that has a pickup truck and they don't have a spray in or lay in bed liner, maybe you should ask. Or a bed cover, maybe you should ask. And if they don't have something and you have your own pickup truck, perhaps that's something of interest to you. Pickup Outfitters, 220 Lake Air Drive in Waco. CreateACommotion.com.
The all-new 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee L is in stock. The beautiful, luxurious, elegant third-row seating carries the prestigious Jeep heritage. First responders get an extra $500. The 2021 Jeep Grand Cherokee Laredo or Limited has total values of $2,400 or 0% for 72 months. It's the Big Finish sales event now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, this is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like our free First mobile app, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. That's the First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
You want to know why Stonewood Dental is so successful? Listen to what happy customers have to say.
It's pleasant. It's different than any other dentist office. I really feel like they care. And it's not that you're here for 2 hours waiting on someone to take care of you. It's quick and easy, and I bring my kids, and my kids love being here too. They really love the treasure box. Staff is really nice and accommodating, real friendly. You feel more like home. It's not sterile looking. Everybody has their own personalized rooms with decorations and decor, and they'll even have a blanket for you when it's cold. I've recommended people to actually come here, and they are patients now. I really love it here. It feels like family.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
It takes time to reach goals. It's a truth that applies to more than sports. It goes for your financial goals as well. You work hard for your money, and you deserve an investment strategy that lines up with your game plan. And Tom Albers, your Edward Jones financial advisor, can help. If your financial investments aren't putting forth the effort you desire, stop by today for a financial review. Tom Albers, 4301 Lakeshore Drive, 254-776-7605. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from select, choice, or prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Niche Group Insurance Agency. With the Niche Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Niche Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Niche Group at 1-800-258-8302.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
The Sikkim 365 Radio app is sponsored by Allen Samuels Dodge Chrysler Jeep Ram Fiat in Waco. Your friend in the car business at Loop 340 and east of 84. Come by. Let's be friends.
Jeff Graham on the chat room. Good afternoon, everyone. Hour number 2. Sickle 365 Radio, 365 Sports on YouTube. He asked me this question. It's a very good question, but one of the things that has at times over the years when we've done shows, Paul knows this as well, Craig, he'll be back with us in just a second. When we, like, for example, ask for Paul does a top 5 at the end of every show, but if we ask for the top 3 of this, or who's the best, and we end up with 17 names, that's fine. It's part of sports. You don't know who's the greatest single team or player or play of all time. I get that. But the Heisman Trophy has their list, and it keeps getting cut down. And eventually, and I voted after all the games were done on Saturday. I voted on Sunday. I don't know, Paul, you and I shared a text, not so much about who I was just kind of picking your brain. But he asked the question, can you tell me how Hutchinson, Michigan's Aiden Hutchinson, made Heisman finals when Will Anderson Jr., Alabama, had almost as many solo tackles as Hutchinson, had more sacks and tackles for losses? And it's a great question. It's a really good question, but here's my deal. Okay, here are the 4. Paul, who are the 4, the finalists again?
It is Bryce Young, Kenny Pickett, C.J. Stroud, and Aiden Hutchinson.
Okay, so I'm asking you, if you took somebody off that list and replaced him with somebody not on the list, who would it be, and who would it be that's taken off?
I would take Kenny Pickett off the list, and I would put Will Anderson on.
Craig Allen?
I guess the same thing. I mean, I'm telling you, the Heisman Trophy and me, but yeah, probably that. I don't want to do that, though. I think Kenny Pickett's had a great year, so I guess that's the move that I'd probably have to make, though.
But here's the point, Jeff, it's a great question, and anyone else asking it. I know there's 900 and some who vote, and a couple of them last night slipped and announced who they actually had voted for because they were a little bit upset about this and that can also help you lose your vote. And you get a height. When they called me and asked me for that, I was like, my God, you're kidding me. And so you can't have 9. And it's not that, Jeff, you're wrong about Anderson compared to Hutchinson. I think they're both fantastic. And
I just don't know why they didn't just have an extra finalist. Like, why cut it off at 4? Why not just make it 5? If there's 5 quality candidates, make it 5. I mean, it's not like they can't swing the plane trip to New York City.
Okay, let me ask you this. That's a great question, a great point, So if you took Anderson and added him, if you had 5, would it be unanimous, almost nearly unanimous, that Anderson would be among your 5? Or who else then would jump into the fray?
I mean, right now it would be, if I'm adding a candidate, it's Will Anderson.
Yeah, I mean, I think he would have to be the number 1. I think he's the most talked about. He's the biggest snub, and he's the best player that would be remaining. So, yeah, I think it would have to be him. Now, I know what you're saying, though. It's kind of like the college football playoff. Well, if we had 8, why not 16? And I mean, but yeah, let's be logical about it, though. I mean, there is a cutoff. I don't think anybody wants to see a team with 5 losses in the playoff necessarily. And you don't want to just have any average jabron being up for the Heisman, trophy. But I mean, we're not talking about average jabrons. We're talking about Will freaking Anderson. We're talking about the best, arguably player in college football for the best college football player award. So, yeah, I mean, I think it would be him. I don't know what the decision-making was as far as, these are our 4 and these are going to be our only 4.
Those are the 4 top vote getters.
Right. Well, I know why they're the 4. I'm saying I don't know why they didn't say, well, Will Anderson. I mean, the vote totals, I haven't seen those. I haven't scooped them out either, and I don't even know if they're available. No. But, I mean, if he was on the verge of – he's 10 votes from being there, then I think he'd make an exception and say, hey, let's go ahead and lump him in as well.
And there's the deal. There must be a drop-off.
There must be
some sort of drop-off. And I've seen some national writers ask about Anderson, and I asked about it as well. And then there's still even the Kenneth Walker, the 3rd from Michigan State, who still, despite the fact they lost that game badly to Ohio State, had a phenomenal year. And that's why the NCAA men's basketball tournament has 68 teams that get in. It used to be 16. Now it's 68, and there's still maybe not quite as much because that's, there's 300 and some basketball programs, but that's what's going to happen. You're going to go from 4 to 12 in college football, and there will still be debate, and that's okay because that means there's interest as well. So By the way, from Raymond in Waco, Raymond, you asked me to send a link to Bryce Petty, Trevor Knight's podcast. I did that to you on the text line as well. So that's my answer to Jeff. Jeff, great question. We appreciate that. OU Yardbird. I like Georgia to beat Michigan, Alabama over Cincinnati. I don't know about Georgia, Michigan.
Yeah, I'm kind of curious about that after this weekend. That was an impressive thumping Alabama put on, and I can't believe that any of us still doubt them, in any situation or scenario. I don't know why we do that. Not that we were all like claiming that Georgia's going to, smoke them or anything, but I'm just talking in general. There was so much love for Georgia. And isn't it funny, too? Like, this is what was amazing to me on Saturday is I was reading the arguments against Georgia before last weekend and about who they've played or have not played. They had the stretch of 3 straight top 25 teams. They went 3-0 in that stretch in the middle of the year. But there's other things that you can point out, like the fact that they haven't played the greatest offenses and they haven't, played the greatest quarterback necessarily over and over again. But it's just funny, though, like how we get into this bubble of, and I'm guilty of it, too, of Georgia, greatest defense ever, Georgia, greatest defense ever, and you just kind of lock yourself into a mindset, and then Alabama beats them up, and you go, well, yeah, of course they did. It's out, you know what I mean? Like, but you weren't thinking that 2 days before, and then you see it, and you go, well, what was I even thinking the entire time? Well, of course Alabama did that.
I did look at some of the times who Georgia was playing, but they still, they were shutting people out, and when I'm surprised Alabama won the game, hell no. But when it was 10-0 Georgia, I'm thinking, okay, this could be a 31-10 game because Alabama struggled so mightily against Auburn, couldn't protect Young. I mean, they riddled what is, I still think, statistically one hell of a defense, maybe a great defense, and they just maybe had a bad day, and they might end up playing each other yet again, who knows?
Armstrong, I just sent you a link to a video, which I can't believe we didn't talk about yesterday, especially given as much as Smokey admires Nick Saban. But here's how the great ones are great.
I was hoping this was a Lincoln Riley pep rally.
Oh, I need to get that one too.
Oh, God. No, we don't. So awkward.
Did you see where they cut it in with What Up With That on SNL?
Oh, I'm sure, yeah. It was a total SNL sketch. It was.
But no, Nick Saban in the press conference, this is how badass Nick Saban is. When you're the greatest, you can say things like this, and maybe you should anyway. But he talks about rat poison all the time.
Yes.
Rat poison.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, whenever it's ready, Armstrong.
Yeah, hold on,
I saw this, and he has this absolute smart-ass smirk on his face. I love it.
Here you go, Armstrong. It's,
okay. All right. By the way, from beer cans and battles, Georgia did play better defense in the second half. It was the second quarter that we messed up. Expect for Kirby and Dan Lanning, their defensive coordinator, to blitz the whole damn game next time. It won't be much difference if, in fact, they do get a chance to play. And from Roger the Dodger, not Staubach, but one of our listeners, it seemed like Georgia has a little brother complex. Oklahoma State did too, but beat Oklahoma. There's a little bit of that. Michigan did too, but beat Ohio State. So there are times you have to just cut that out of your gut and get rid of that syndrome.
What I was talking about with using Baylor as an example of getting to a championship game being different than going to a championship game and winning a championship game. That's kind of like Georgia's. They've won big games. Don't get me wrong, but there was that opportunity right there, and that's the difference. In at least the fallback was you're still making the playoff. You still have a chance to win a national title. So all could end up fine in the wash when it's said and done. But yeah, it feels like a little bit of a missed opportunity. It does, and if they get a second crack, I would absolutely, of course, expect a much different type of game.
Hey, by the way, one quick note before we go to the video when Armstrong gets it loaded. Cherise Armistead, who's on the chat room, mentioned she's a huge Cincinnati fan, talking about how much respect she has for Alabama, and everybody does. Tony Pike, former Cincinnati quarterback, about 12 years ago, drafted by Carolina, had a conversation with him on the way to the studio today. He's going to join us this week of what that means to former Cincinnati players who have been a part of the journey. I think did he play under Brian Kelly? Would that have been under Brian Kelly? I would think so when he was at Cincinnati, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Armstrong, we got it?
You guys gave us a lot of really positive rat poison. The rat poison that you usually give us is usually fatal. But the rat poison that you put out there this week was yummy.
Come on. How can you not love Nick Saban? And I get it. If you're a Georgia fan, you hate his guts. But That was beautiful. And here's the thing. He basically said, because Nick Saban can only play this card once, and they're not believing in you. Because in Alabama, you're telling kids who everyone believes in unconditionally that they're not believing you. So he had the card to play one time. He played it because it was there. Hey, look, they think you're going to get your butts whipped by Georgia. They think that's what's going to happen. They think that's what he played that and played it, and his team ate it up and yummy rat poison. Now, he can't play it again, but Nick Saban doesn't need to play it again. He'll have another card he'll be able to play if they play each other again.
From Terrence Baca on the playoff, by the way, on the 12-team playoff, I've never thought of it this way. I have and I haven't. I've also heard the argument about school, education, academics, and we know that's crap. I'm not saying student athletes is not still a thing, but when it comes to too many games, and yet how many games are being played now, there's 13, 14, or 15. From Terrence, why would an NFL draft prospect want a 12-team playoff? Even more serious risk of injury in a 12-team playoff because there might be yet one more, if not two more games, and some aren't even now playing in the games that they have when it comes to bowl games.
Well, if it's a playoff, they'll play, I would think.
Yeah, that's a great point, though. I mean, it's a great point. I would think that
you would think that,
that the playoff, though. I mean, if you're playing for a title, I think that would be a giant red flag if you didn't play if your team was in the playoff. I mean, that to me would be a massive red flag of selfishness. And I understand some guys have to protect themselves. Like if you're somebody who's dinged up and you're partially injured and you sit out, like that would be one thing. But if you're totally healthy and you're sitting out a playoff run, that to me would be that'd be a big red flag.
Yeah.
Because that would just speak a lot about you and your focus on the individual rather than, the team, obviously. But, I mean, there's certain scenarios where you absolutely understand guys making that choice. But, yeah, in the playoff, I wouldn't think that would be the case. But it's a great point as far as, with all the power that's being given back to the student athletes now. I mean, I don't doubt that, if people are successful in trying to form some type of union or whatever bargaining there may be because of NIL and all those things, I can see it getting messy as far as, players speaking up and going, wait a second here, we got to play a couple extra games potentially. But at the same time, too, how many teams are we talking about? We're talking about like a handful of teams at the most, but still, that's a great point.
But if you're in the Gasparilla Bowl with an interim coach,
whatever.
I mean, I can't.
Why do you have to pick on that one?
It was just the one that look, Florida has an interim coach.
They're people too.
But and here's the other thing. This might be, and you know me, I don't like to pump sunshine. It's not something I'm usually physically able to do, and I might vomit in the trash can after I do this. But in some regards, if you're in the Gasparilla Bowl and you get a chance to have your new coaching staff work with the young guys after the other guys leave and you've got eligibility and can play, those 15 practices for the guys who wouldn't normally get those reps could be invaluable moving forward with the new coaching staff. So as much as it may seem bad, there are bright sides to it. And look, I don't think guys are, like Craig said, isn't he a red flag? If I'm drafting somebody to be a professional athlete and the money is made in the pros by my team being successful and going to the playoffs, and a guy opts out of the playoffs before I draft him, I may not want it.
It's a great question, Terrence, but Craig, you got me thinking the opposite way. We're not talking about just bowl games. That's an extra game or an extra 2 or 3 weeks to practice. And so I could see that probably would not become a problem. From the 440, greetings from B&B outside Cleveland. Hey. This is the first chance for me to discuss the playoff pairings. I'm not surprised Bama and Georgia are on opposite sides of the bracket. ESPN wants an all-SEC final. They own the SEC network, so they have to promote their own product. And there is absolutely that conspiracy theory. And in this case, the way the games went down, and Cincinnati blows out Houston, and I understand that's not the SEC and all that. The way that those games went down, Georgia should have dropped to 4.
Oh,
and maybe they could have done this, which would have been even more easier for would have been easier for me to swallow. Michigan 1, Alabama 2, Cincinnati 3, and then Georgia 4. You still avoid the SEC matchup of Alabama and Georgia in the semifinals. I could understand that scenario better than what I can with what they have now. I'm not saying the 4 are wrong, But there's no question. You do know.
There's no conspiracy. There's no conspiracy.
Yeah.
There's no like, oh, well, no, that's not. No, that's absolutely what happened. That's absolutely what they did, and there's no denying that's what they did. You get blown out by 17 points in the conference championship game, and you're the favorite. No, you don't deserve to be top 3. I don't care what you did before then. There has to be some penalty for losing a football game and losing by double digits. So the penalty for me is not knocking them out of the playoff, but entirely. But they damn sure shouldn't be top 3 after that.
Well, and the thing is, you could have gotten the same game by making them 4th and making Michigan 1.
That's what I did. That was my scenario.
So you could have done the same thing.
But that would make sense because Michigan damn sure earned 1. Alabama did too.
You had to burn incense to Alabama, so you put them number 1.
So you don't mean to have all these people, they're all great leaders and all this, and no one in the room said, guys, we could probably, and again, they don't need to react according to what the conspiracy theories are, but it would have made much more sense. Michigan, Alabama, Cincinnati, Georgia.
I think that their last meeting, which should be their longest one, which may be the only one they really need to have ever, but which should be the longest one, I think they made up their mind last week or during the week. If they knew if A, then B, if B, then C, they knew what was going to happen because, again, and that's not because of 1 to 4 necessarily, which I think it certainly is, but 5 and 6 are the 1 to 4 you could have maybe had some, thrown out a smoke screen to maybe not believe this. But the fact that 5 and 6 were Ohio State and Notre Dame means to me that the committee knew that no matter what happened, that Notre Dame and Ohio State were going to be 5 and 6, and that nothing that happened in the other championship games was going to affect that.
I would love to have seen, and I'm glad Baylor won because that's
unless
what we
Oklahoma
cover.
State won.
But if Oklahoma State had drilled Baylor 31-10 or something like that, boy, don't you know there would have been heartburn in that office or in that conversation in that committee, and it would have been interesting to see if Oklahoma State could have forced them to really look at Oklahoma State's resume compared to what Georgia had.
I just hate the whole thing that they're able to hide behind, and they're not even hiding behind it, but it feels sort of kind of that way. They hide behind the whole, this is the 4 best teams thing. It's not the 4 most, why are we not doing the 4 most deserving? Would you guys rather watch the 4 most deserving or the 4 best? I know most people would probably say the 4 best. They want to see the best teams possible play in the game. But if we do that, that's why we are repeating ourselves every single year, no matter what those same teams do. Whether they drop 2 games or they lose 1 crucial game at the end, or they lose 1 game during the year, whatever the case may be, it's like there's mulligans for certain teams, and it's always covered up. No matter what loss they have, no matter if they get blown out by 2 touchdowns, it's like, oh, well, Bama's just so good. It's not that, Georgia needs to get knocked at all. It's just that Bama's so good. And obviously Georgia didn't get knocked really hardly at all. I mean, just going to number 3. But yeah, I hate the whole. I mean, I'm all for let's get the 4 best teams, but I'm much more for the most deserving because the most deserving actually earned it.
Someone made a comment. It might have been one of you two. It might have been on the chat room, but I wish I would have grabbed it. I would give the person credit. Is this a playoff or is this an invitational?
Well, we've talked about that,
yes.
And Bartu shot holes through the idea of the invitational because, he said they've got their format, they've got their way of this is how we look at games, and it's not as we all like to think that it is, them just like, how can we get Alabama to number 1 necessarily? Although it still feels that way. Every time they come out with rankings, it feels like they're doing something along those types of lines, but they have their set of things that they go by, apparently. But it's just awfully convenient that those set of things they go by just seem to tweak whenever they need to be tweaked for certain issues and not so much for others. And so, I think it's a little bit of both, honestly. Obviously Cincinnati's in the playoffs, so you can't knock them for leaving Cincinnati out. So it's not entirely the invitational because they sure as hell wouldn't send one of their first 4 invitations to Cincinnati. So that shoots through it a little bit. But I absolutely do believe that the tweak that's probably needed is not so much focusing on the 4 best teams regardless of their losses, regardless of everything else, and actually focusing on, the 4 teams that deserve it, the 4 teams that won the games they were supposed to win, the 4 teams that stayed competitive in the games they were supposed to stay competitive in, 4 teams that overcame injuries, this and that. I think you still end up with probably some of the similar teams, but it doesn't feel that way all the time. It doesn't feel like it's the 4 most deserving. It feels like it's the 4 best in the eyes of the committee.
Yeah, and when we come back, Miami has their new head coach. Oregon is open, and that's the next one, of course, that people are discussing. And we'll come back and discuss today's press conference. Mario Cristobal introduces the head coach of the U next on Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports.
BetUS.com, the 3-decade leader in sports betting. Use our promo code SICKM125 or SICKM200. Look, you got the CFP coming up, college bowl games, NFL action, NBA action, college basketball, all that going on at BetUS.com. SICKM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICKM200, that's a 200% bonus on crypto if you're fancy and use cryptocurrency. BetUS.com is the 3-decade leader because they've got action on everything. Go to BetUS.com, use our promo code SICKM125 and SICKM200.
Payments for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See deal for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Car. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $438 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Car. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Car today.
At Richard Car, we give you more.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
How did Edward Jones become one of the biggest financial service companies in the world? By not acting that way. Financial strategies, one-on-one advice, it's a big difference. And that's why Brad Wilson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, makes sense of investing. Experience the difference for yourself. Brad Wilson, 250 Sharon Drive in Woodway, 254-776-4337. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey, this is Bryce Petty, former starting quarterback and 2-time Big 12 champion, and I know firsthand the importance of being in top shape both on and off the field. So listen up, men. If you're feeling beat down day in and day out and looking for that high-performance edge that separates the men from the boys, then look no further than the Petty Clinic Low T in Waco. Petty Clinic is a comprehensive men's healthcare clinic with an atmosphere catering to men. Board-certified Dr. Kent Petty has a special interest in offering the highest quality medical care to men of all ages. Some of the services offered include screening and treatment for low testosterone or thyroid, infertility, high blood pressure, diabetes, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, while offering comprehensive wellness exams and complete men's health lab panels. High performance men, remember, it's not just a Petty thing. This is Bryce Petty, encouraging you to reach out and Google search Petty Clinic Low T or go to pettycliniclowt.com and get your complimentary lab screening today.
Masters of Barbecue, kings of crazy good food, and the perfect sanctuary for sports, beer, and barbecue is Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco and also on Highway 84 in McGregor. A menu filled with choices like a great offensive playbook, including 3 meat combos with sides, burgers, and sandwiches, wings, loaded giant spuds, and salads. Crazy wings, chicken poppers, big boy fries, and smoking quesadillas, just some of their amazing appetizers. There's Coach Big Ol' Draft Beer, or order Zach's Spicy Bloody Mary or Coach's margaritas and mimosas while watching your favorite team play. Great pecan smoked barbecue, fun atmosphere with attention to detail, including a catering menu, and we'll quote your price to fit your budget. Coach's XXX Smoke on Austin Avenue in downtown Waco, and walking distance to the great places to shop and enjoy, and also the original location on Highway 84 in McGregor. Great food, great price, great fun. Eat where the locals eat.
Brad Boozer's Jeweler, joins us on Sikkim 365 Radio. I've seen people walk in there. First of all, you have so much to show, whether necklaces, bracelets, rings. You have the watches. You have numerous great watches as well. You really have pretty much everything, don't you, when it comes to jewelry?
That's correct. Kind of a one-stop shop and all. And the fact that we have the 2 jewelers on staff, the repairs we can do, the fixing of your jewelry, and the remaking of any jewelry has really set us apart from anybody else.
You want to know why they're successful? Brad Boozer, the owner of Boozer's Jewelers on the corner of Valley Mills and Lake Air in Waco.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. Have you subscribed to our YouTube channel? Search 365 Sports on YouTube.
So Miami has their guy. Now Oregon's looking for theirs, and of course there's all sorts of different options or reports, and that's another story. But Miami does have Mario Cristobal. He was introduced today. Manny Navarro for theathletic.com joins us. Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Manny, what is the mood, the atmosphere? Is it kind of a relief? They feel like they finally may have gotten their guy?
Yeah, I mean, certainly Mario's a favorite son. You know, I mean, he won 2 national championships here. He coached here as a grad assistant, came back as an assistant under Larry Coker in the early 2000s, and then went on and got a lot of experience as a head coach and then as an assistant under Nick Saban. Miami fans have been wanting a coach like Mario, a great recruiter, a guy who has led his team to conference championships. That's the kind of guy that they want. He's got a lot of energy. So this is a very big day for Miami football.
Manny, the search was a bit of a circus and a mess, and Manny Diaz was out on the road recruiting until he wasn't, and then Mario Cristobal obviously taking the job. They don't technically have the AD yet, even though that appears somewhat imminent. What does that say about what Mario Cristobal is going to have to deal with going forward, even if Miami is committed to giving him the things that the program hasn't had to stay competitive?
Yeah, well, I mean, they are giving it to him. That's the whole point of it. The reason he's coming back is because they're giving him money as far as assistant coaches, recruiting, to beef up all those things that are a part of winning. I mean, they made a full commitment to him that Miami would have the highest payroll as far as assistant coaches in the ACC. And you go look that number up. It was Clemson last year. They were $8.4 million. Miami's never spent this way before on assistants. The belief always was, hey, you know what? We've got a great recruiting backyard, and we can just go there and pluck guys. And it doesn't matter who's coaching these guys. We got too many great athletes. But guess what? That got old pretty quickly. It got old 20 years ago. And when everybody in college football was paying coaches, salaries, and those things just kept going up. So I think, right now Miami as an administration has recognized that changes needed to be made. They needed to make a serious commitment if they were ever going to get football on the right track, and that's the big reason why Mario Cristobal's back. If he doesn't get that guarantee, he's not here.
Manny, how many questions are there still remaining about just kind of how all this happened? I know at the press conference, apparently you guys were told to not ask questions about the lead up to this, but is it as muddy as it sounds, or as conspiracy filled as it sounds? Like how all this unfolded on your end, or is there just a lot of questions still kind of remaining on how we got here?
No, I think look. I know the public, for the most part, I mean, they've been reading the headlines and certainly, saw what happened with Manny Diaz and so forth, and weren't happy with the way he was treated. I mean, most schools operate in a different way, right? They fire the head coach and then go searching. But I know from being heavily involved and talking to the administration and people that were really behind this, they felt Manny Diaz, was their second choice. They wanted to give Mario Cristobal a serious run. That was the only guy that they were swinging at, and ultimately the fact that Mario took the job, that's why Manny Diaz is out of a job. Otherwise, he'd be back right now, and he would have got the same support system as far as staff and everything else. I think in the end, Mario's just such a big time recruiter, and plus there was so much negativity surrounding Manny Diaz. I mean, the 2-4 start, the fact that this is year 3, and the team was picked 14th in the preseason. They were supposed to win the conference. Clemson was down this year. This was sort of the golden opportunity. I think Miami fans are just so angry and so fed up with Manny Diaz, that it's almost like the administration had no choice but to go after Mario and at least push for it. So I think look, it didn't reflect well on leadership in the end, but they got their guy, and that's all anybody cares about now in Miami.
Is there hope that this is the next, and they've had what they thought was their guy? What has to happen? They've been a cluster when it comes to administration. The AD, of course, that's changing too, and now they've got that. And are they all on the same page, Manny? Don't they need to all find a way to get on the same page and not just say it but do it?
Absolutely, I'm with you 100%. And the one thing I will say, Rudy Fernandez, who was the president's chief of staff there at Miami, and who was the one that was really anchoring this with Joe Echeverria, it was the two of them. Both of those guys set out during the interview process to make sure whatever athletic director they spoke to would be good with Mario Cristobal as the coach or Manny Diaz. So while it certainly looks backwards, right, in the order that you would do this, you would hire the athletic director first, let him hire the guy. I think Miami went through the process during the interview process and sort of worked some of those details out. And ultimately, Dan Radakovich was okay with that. Was okay with that scenario. I mean, certainly $2 million, get $2 million a year helps, right? But I think also, ultimately, if Dan's going to take this job, he's going to meet with Mario first, and they're going to make sure they see eye to eye. And if they do, he signs that contract, and they get both of the big time, the coach and the athletic director they wanted.
Is there any talk of building a stadium that is for the Miami Hurricanes and they're not renting space from the Dolphins?
Yeah, I mean, there's a billionaire down here, John Ruiz, who both of his sons played baseball at Miami, and his daughter, I think, was either a dancer or a band member. I don't know the specifics, but he's a guy who's made a whole lot of money and already given the baseball program $1 million in the past. He says he wants to build a stadium down here, and obviously that's always been a huge roadblock for Miami, right? They played at the Orange Bowl, which was down the street from the university, and then moved out to Hard Rock, which is even further away, which is a hindrance, especially when everybody else in college football has, or not everybody else, but certainly almost everybody else has that beautiful campus on stadium. They have those traditions. So I think Ruiz is serious about making a run at this, but the location is going to be the key. Coral Gables, I don't know if you've been down there before ever in your life. Very, very plush neighborhoods. They get angry when the state, when the University of Miami built that baseball stadium, put all those lights up, and they have night games, and they're not down with that kind of stuff. And I think ultimately it's going to be really hard to get a stadium on campus, but certainly Tropical Park. It's another location down the highway, about 15 minutes away from campus. Everybody has always said, build it at Tropical Park. It's a short ride. The students will come. You'll have a good atmosphere. I think Ruiz will make a run at that or another location, perhaps Marlins Park, where the Orange Bowl once stood in that area. Those might be areas that I think realistically it's probably not going to happen.
So, Manny, I just saw where it looks like Cristobal is going to be bringing his O-line coach from Oregon, and I don't know, there might be some other notes that I missed out on, but in terms of the staff, I mean, obviously it'd be expected that Cristobal is going to bring some of his guys over, but is there already any buzz being created over, who might be coordinators or who might be linked and things of that nature?
Yeah, certainly the former LSU coordinator who just got fired from the Panthers, Joe, and I'm forgetting his last name now, blank. Joe Brady, there you go. Thank you for reminding me. I've been a little sleep deprived here for the last week, so apologies. But, Joe Brady is a name that people threw out there. He is a Miami native who kind of rose through the coaching ranks really fast, had obviously a great season at LSU. But, we'll see if that comes to fruition. I know this. Mario's armed with a lot of money to work with here. I know ultimately Mirabal will be coming with him. I reported that earlier. There's a chance his receivers coach at Oregon could be coming as well, and the strength coach. Miami, he's going to try to build as great a staff as he can with the money that he's given, and make a serious run at this. Miami won 7-5 this year, but Tyler Van Dyke, the quarterback. I mean, if you watch this guy the last 6 games of the season, I mean, he's got to be one of the top quarterbacks in the country next year. And we all know what that position means, right? I mean, you have a guy like that, you can do special things. The Coastal was nothing special this year. Kenny Pickett's leaving Pittsburgh. North Carolina's losing their guy, Sam Howell. Those guys are all going pro. Like, Miami's in a perfect position, offensively at least, to be really special. We can just get the defense fixed. There's no reason this team can't be in the ACC title game. And, oh, by the way, they've done that once in 17, 18 years. So that'll be a step forward for the program without a doubt.
When I first saw Tyler Van Dyke earlier in the year, I was like, who in the heck is this guy? Like, who is this dude? And and then you keep watching him and you're like, dang, he just makes plays. Like, he has swagger, he has confidence, all that. I mean, what was it like to just kind of see his development and progress being such a young player, still kind of thrust into things with De'Aaron King's injury? I mean, what was that like to just kind of observe him mature throughout the season?
Well, what's funny is I flew out to Connecticut to meet with Tyler his senior year of high school. He was at this, very nice private school, and I thought, well, I'm like, how many great quarterbacks come out of this area, right? I mean, it's got to be a short list. And yet, I watched him throw the football, and I'm saying, man, this guy's just got a special arm. Like he was the pitcher of the year in the state up in Connecticut his senior year. And what I love most about him is he's just fearless. He does not give a damn. He is going to throw the football, and he's going to throw it hard. He's going to get it where it needs to go. And I thought, Red Lashes did a hellacious job with him, really just letting him get comfortable. Those first two starts against Virginia and North Carolina on the road, I think they were a little cautious with him. But after that, after he played well in the second half of both of those games, Lashley ultimately realized I can't rein this guy in. I got to let him be him. And he really shined. I mean, 6 straight games with 300 yards or more and 3 touchdowns. I think it's only been done a couple times here the last decade. So he's a special quarterback, and I know Miami fans. I mean, Mario Cristobal called him the best quarterback in the country going into next year. I don't think Mario's maybe studied every quarterback in the country yet, but I got to agree, certainly top 10 coming off of this finish.
Well, you know what, Manny? It's up to you. You have one job. Florida State, and Miami must get better to represent that great state of Florida. So get going on that, okay?
I'm working on it. Hey, you know what? I thought Mike Norvell did a good job at Florida State this year. I think they're going to be, good. And certainly Florida, I really like the hire. I think both of those schools are going to start coming back. But you're right. We need these guys to be good down here. Football really stinks when all of them are hovering around 500. I'll tell you that.
Thank you, Manny.
Yeah, I agree, Manny.
Yeah, I know Paul does his FSU grad. Manny, thank you, buddy. Appreciate you jumping on with us today when Mario Cristobal introduced as the coach at Miami. And so now Oklahoma has done their deal. Miami has the USC, all of them. Now Oregon is on the clock as the page changes in college football.
And going to have a big note that we'll bring up in off the radar.
On the one, do that.
On the thing that just happened. But, Aranda's being mentioned with the Oregon job. There's other names that are being floated around like Lane Kiffin and some other, I think there's like a couple in-house, or at least one in-house guy that I saw being mentioned maybe by one of the players. And it's a quiet job right now. It's a lot of just that speculation phase. But I don't think Oregon's going to wait this thing out and take 3 weeks or a month or what have you. I know they got an interim already in place, but very intrigued by what they're going to do, and very much looking forward to them naming who that is, and hoping it's not named Dave Aranda.
When Craig, it won't be, but I know why you feel the way you do. All right, now when we come back, Craig Smoak on breaking news in college football. Big
note in the Big 12.
It's a big shift, and it could affect the Big 12. That and more off the radar with Craig next on Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. Marco's Pizza. Pizza lovers get it. I showed you the video we ran, I guess it was last week, that Bob Mock, the owner of Marco's Pizza, in Waco, Texas, with 4 locations, ran in a triathlon. I remember meeting Bob many, many years ago. He was working, in fact, he was running Domino's location here in Waco. Now he owns his own pizza company. Not company, Marco's is a national brand, but he has 4 of those Marco's pizzas in the Waco area. And he's been a part of the business forever. Knows it, understands it, like Marco's does. Marco's Pizza, pizza lovers get it. Here are some of the specials they have right now. Large specialty pizzas, $3 off. You can go online, order online. You could use the code SPECIAL3. Also, unlimited medium one-topping pizzas for $6.99 each. You can go online and order that as well. And when you call them, bring this up at Marco's, wherever the locations, 1,000 of them or so around the country for those of you listening from coast to coast with 365 Sports. Unlimited large 2-topping pizzas. This is a staple online. Large 2-topping pizzas, carry out only $8.99 each. The code HOT to go. Marco's Pizza. And they continue to have their original sauce. Of course, they have the 3-blend cheese topping and whatever you want as far as regular hand-tossed or thin crust. I just like eating the thin crust pizza. It just seems to be more manageable for me. And if you're interested ever in owning your own business, well, they have franchises available depending on the territory you live or where you want to have one. Marco's Pizza, 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and now the new location in Robinson. Pizza lovers get it.
Y'all listen up. Let me tell you something about group meals from Rudy's Barbecue. It's got all you need for all the folks you gotta feed, smoked meat, sides, and more. There's everything down to the tablecloth, just like the one that you see at the store. At a bridal shower, it's better than flowers. In a long business meeting, it'll pass the hours. It'll feed all the cousins at a family function. It's better than potluck at a church luncheon. Next time you need to feed 10 or more, call and order a Rudy's group meal.
Next in line.
Riverbend Liquor and Wine, Lakeshore Drive at North 19th Street in Waco is a hidden gem. They've got a great selection of spirits, wine, and the most extensive selection of craft beer in Waco in their gorgeous walk-in fridge. And they have an amazing array of high-end bourbons like Pinhook, Weller, Buffalo Trace, Brush Creek, Hotel, Garrison Brothers, Thomas S. Moore, Hooten Young, and Bardstown. Great customer service and a convenient and speedy drive-through window. Riverbend Liquor and Wine. Find out more on Facebook and Instagram.
Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness continues to add more weapons to your getting or staying in shape arsenal with 8 brand new treadmills ready for you to run or walk a mile or 2 or 10. And with the explosion of interest in pickleball with instructors Joe Rosa and Jody Thurman with more courts available. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with large flat screens stretched across the weight room with Wi-Fi available, their own app to enjoy news, business, weather, or sports. Everywhere you look, there's energy, passion, and commitment. New touchless water fountains outside of each locker room, and all the locker rooms with showers, sauna, and whirlpool. Upgraded PA system throughout the world-class tennis courts with a youth academy led by pro Britt Coleman. Fitness and tennis merchandise available and a tanning bed. I promise you'll look and feel better. You just need to walk through the front door. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness with personal trainers Christy London and Randall Corley. 40-plus group exercise classes, including twice-a-week boot camp. It's time to react today, not tomorrow. Waco Regional Tennis and Fitness on Lake Shore Drive in Waco.
In the market for a quality metal building? Since 1943, Pioneer Steel and Pipe has helped Central Texas residential and commercial customers with metal building design, panel options, building components, and trim options. Pioneer Steel and Pipe's residential line is energy efficient, offers low maintenance, reduces insurance payments, is impact resistant, and carries up to a 45-year limited warranty. In addition, they can also help you find a metal building contractor for your project. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with locations in Waco and Bryan and at pioneersboys.com.
Shorty's Pizza Shack at 12th and Bagby is a homegrown, family-owned and operated must-visit pizza place in Waco. Fantastic pizza by the slice or get the whole pie to share. Great happy hour specials every single day, and it's not just pizza. Great wings. You have to try the Sikkim sauce, chili cheese fries, pizza pillows, and more. Dine in for a great hangout or carry-out. Order online at shortyspizzashack.com or do yourself a favor and bring your crew to the restaurant at 12th and Bagby. Shorty's Pizza Shack. Tell them Paul sent you by.
Stepping into a new pair of boots is great, but stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can also add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. There are more than 150 occupational specialties to help them find the best fit for their future. See all the things your son or daughter can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for Craig Smoak's Off the Radar. Brought to you by Pickup Outfitters. Since 1997, we've been outfitting trucks, SUVs, and vans at 220 Lake Air Drive or createacommotion.com.
All right, welcome into Off the Radar. Taking a look at some various stories around sports. Some of them would probably fall into our normal conversation, but a few things outside of that as well. But the big breaking news that came out over the last 5 minutes or so, we talked about the rumor that was churning along earlier, actually a couple hours ago, but now it is official. Ohio State is hiring Oklahoma State defensive coordinator Jim Knowles as the new defensive coordinator of the Buckeyes. It is official. Ohio State's already sent out an announcement, and I saw our buddy Max Olson, who made mention of, and talking with people at Oklahoma State, they said that losing Jim Knowles would never be a matter of money. And so this is not a money move necessarily, although I'm sure he's being paid handsomely by Ohio State, but just a career move, I suppose. But yeah, Jim Knowles, last we saw him in orange and black, he was facing Baylor in the Big 12 championship game, and his unit did a hell of a job outside of the first half, really. And even in the first half, they made some plays, but obviously pitched a dang good performance in the second half, shutting Baylor out. And, that's going to be the last Big 12 game he coaches for at least the foreseeable future, because he's headed to the Big 10 in Ohio State.
Baylor did not score in the second half. There was a blocked field goal near the end of the first half, which I thought could come back to haunt him, and it surely almost did. And then they had another missed field goal. Hankins, who's been so good, his defense shut them out. And now you wonder, Mike Gundy, he has a personality currently of who they were this year that worked. Does he go out and find someone like that to make sure the personality doesn't change of their football team?
I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, that's very curious. Now, look, there's some good DCs out there in the water, that he could go and get. One of them, I would think, would be Will Muschamp, to keep that, because the other way, no offense offense taken. The other way wasn't working for them. Were they in the Big 12 title game the other way?
No.
No, it wasn't working. So this one got you in the Big 12 title game. It's, to me, a little bit more sustainable. So might as well go big.
Yeah, but that's because of Jim Knowles. I mean, that's the thing. It's like that style worked because of the guy who just left. So, yeah, I mean, you can go the defensive route and stay that route, and Muschamp might not be a bad hire, but I mean, you were who you were this year because of Jim Knowles, and so now he is gone. He is headed to Ohio State. It's official, and Ohio State says that they will continue preparing for the Rose Bowl with their current 10-man staff, and that Knowles will start on January the 2nd. So, yeah, now big shoes to fill, and maybe it is a Muschamp. I mean, certainly there's other defensive coordinators. You never lose a guy and then you're just dead in the water necessarily, but that is a huge blow for Oklahoma State. That was a big part of their identity this year.
And he was up for the Burroughs Award, along with Jeff Grimes, that went to Gaddis at Notre Dame today.
Yep. Tulsa defensive coordinator Joseph Gillespie is being hired by TCU. He is heading to the Horned Frogs. He's going to reportedly be taking former Baylor cornerbacks coach and current Tulsa assistant Carlton Buckles with him to Fort Worth. So make that Kaz Kazadi and now Carlton Buckles from the old Browl staffs that are in Fort Worth, which is just kind of funny to think about given what a lot of Frogs fans said a few years ago. But he is, Gillespie is going to be leaving Tulsa, heading to Fort Worth, taking Carlton Buckles with him, and that was a note on the Tulsa departures. Their offensive line coach headed to USC, Zach Hansen. So
and
Tulsa,
you know who Hansen's wife is? The recruiting coordinator of Oklahoma.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Annie.
Yeah. Annie Hansen. I've seen her on Twitter and whatnot. So, yeah, he's leaving to go take the USC job with Lincoln Riley, and now they're losing their DC and Carlton Buckles.
Joseph Gillespie was a football coach at Stephenville. He was a head coach. He was also under the Art Briles Stephenville dynasty that they had back in the 90s, and then took over as the head coach for a little bit, and then became a part of that Tulsa staff with Montgomery.
Well, speaking of high school football, I'll go ahead and put this note right there. Chris Jensen, Euless Trinity head coach, has announced his retirement. Now, for a lot of people out there, they might not recognize Euless Trinity, but a lot of you probably do if you pay attention to recruiting and national high school football rankings and things like that. Trinity's been a powerhouse program for going on a couple of decades now at this point. But yeah, head coach Chris Jensen announces his retirement.
Trinity High School has the Haka Dance. That's the one because of their Tongan community. And Craig, remember, that was one of the great games we did. They lost to what was Craig's alma mater and Jennifer's alma mater, Lee, now Legacy, in the semifinals in 2004 to go to the state championship and beat Westfield.
I love watching Euless Trinity play.
Yeah.
They knock people around. It's a difficult game to prepare for because you got to.
And he replaced a legend in Steve Lineweaver, who was unbelievable.
Yeah.
At Trinity and also South Lake Carroll.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's like an in-house or whatever, but that's a big job in Texas high school football that I'm sure a lot of guys are already lining up to get. Going back to the college coaching staff, because this is kind of a good place to kind of plug some of these in, because not all of them are necessarily notable headlines, but Texas Tech staff is starting to round out. They hired offensive coordinator Zach Kittley yesterday. Comes over from Western Kentucky, where Bailey Zappi, his quarterback, who was a former Houston Baptist quarterback, is a transfer. So he's a guy with a lot of experience, and he just lit it up. Could have been the Heisman finalist pool. I mean, there are certainly some people who tried to make an argument for him, but obviously playing at Western Kentucky and the fact they lost a handful of games, even with him breaking all these records, probably didn't help his case. But he had a phenomenal year. So Kittley, the OC at Tech now, but also now announced is that he'll be bringing his Western Kentucky offensive line coach with him. Stephen Hamby will be the new offensive line coach at Texas Tech. So Kittley had the Tech ties. Well, Hamby, a former Texas Tech offensive lineman. So Joey McGuire filling that staff with a lot of Texas Tech folks and people who know the Lubbock area, and just about done. I mean, he still needs to name a defensive coordinator at this point, but rounding out that staff now and pretty much filled up on offense.
I was curious when Cumbie took the job at Law Tech if he would discuss that with Graham Harrell, the former star at Texas Tech, and of course has been at USC. He's now looking for a job. And remember, Harrell was courted by Texas just a couple of years ago when he was at USC. And then, because I know he has an incredible close friendship with some of the players or coaches at the Baylor staff, some that probably have kind of looked at him with a little bit of an eye because of what they've done recruiting-wise, but I wouldn't have been surprised if he hadn't picked up the phone and called Sean Bell just to ask who was the quarterback's coach at Baylor. So that's great news. I didn't think Sean would go, but hell, if you have an opportunity, and so that's good that they filled that job with Kittley.
Virginia Tech has announced their new defensive coordinator, Chris Marv, former Vanderbilt linebacker, but was on the staff at Florida State, Paul. So he's now Bolton, Florida State, and will be the new DC at Virginia Tech under Brent Pry. And Brent Pry actually coached him when he was a senior at Vanderbilt back in 2011. So that's pretty cool to come full circle. And you talk about like young and up-and-coming coaches, just 32 years old. Yeah. So making a big leap at just 32 and a name to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I mean, you're already at DC at 32. And I think that Virginia job is one that if they get it right, I mean, that's a really good fertile recruiting area.
It's a beautiful part of the country.
Beautiful part of the country. The school's fantastic. It's got a great academic history. They just haven't been able to get it right for, going on a while now.
Yeah, going on a little while. So that's an interesting hire, and we'll see what plays out there with the rest of the Virginia staff, or just Virginia Tech staff. There's a young up-and-coming coach on the rise and a big move up to being a very young defensive coordinator. Did y'all watch Monday Night Football last night?
I did.
Yeah, it's the most unique thing I've ever seen.
In what way?
Well, you're going to bring it up, right?
I mean, first of all, the weather for one.
They're right off. Where is Buffalo? Off Lake Erie? Is it?
I don't know if it's off Lake Erie, but it's, yeah.
I don't know. It's cold as a blank, and it's windy, and that's why it's Buffalo. And you want home field advantage up there. And they used to get it back, Kelly and Bruce Smith. God, it was miserable, and they threw 4 passes and won the game.
It is Lake Erie. You were right.
3?
3 passes.
It is Lake Erie.
Yeah,
it's colder than a
witch is, you know what? Yeah.
Yes. And Belichick Mac Jones did the perfect, flawless job at quarterback by handing the ball off to many people.
Yeah.
Did you see what Matt Judon said after the game? He's like, hey, it's a great performance for everybody except for Mac. All he did was turn around and hand the ball off. But the Buffalo defenders are all pissed off when somebody says that embarrassing. He's like, man, they scored 14 points. I mean, what are you supposed to do? They scored 1 touchdown whatever it was. And it was, Bill Belichick had a plan, and that's why when I asked Bryce Petty about it, it was impressive. Loved the Manning cast last night. Had Letterman and Joe Buck on it. Were both really good. They cut Letterman off, though. The commercial hit halftime. Letterman's in the middle of the story and cut him off.
Why?
Because they threw a commercial. They just
and that was very awkward. Of course, she's funny and and it was like even Peyton Manning asked him about his football days. He goes, "Have you ever seen me? Have you ever seen me in the shower?" He was like, "No, I didn't play football." So
yeah, it was a very interesting game. The Patriots just ran some more. It was like watching Navy, almost of just not throwing the football at all. Mac Jones was 2 of 3 passing for 19 yards.
Yeah,
that was it. Yeah. 2 of 3 passing for 19 yards. He had a 4.3 QBR, which is pretty low. But
they didn't need to throw.
They didn't. I mean,
was it
and
Dante Harris?
You really couldn't. It's Damian Harris. Played at Alabama. But yeah, I mean, it was also tough to throw given the 40-mile-per-hour wind gust. I mean, just an insane environment. Patriots ran for 222 yards and just had the 19 yards receiving on the 2 receptions. Pretty insane. Buffalo, 99 yards rushing as the Patriots defense played really well. And you look up and the Patriots are 9-4, and they're on a big winning streak. And there's no Brady. It's just Belichick still at this point, but he's gotten Mac Jones and these cats to back to where they typically are. So that was a nice win, although an ugly win for the Patriots last night.
You should have seen the emotions on the sideline of the Patriots, knowing that they went into Buffalo, stole one, got a game up on the team that's right behind them as they take control of the AFC East a year after they drop back, and here they are again.
Also, Baseball Hall of Fame announced they'll officially have 6 more members via committee voting. And there was, some slights. You can always argue about the Baseball Hall of Fame.
Well, the other ones, because the vote comes in January, right, Paul?
Yeah.
The modern day. But I like these names.
This is the committee voting.
Yeah.
These are the names that are being added to the Baseball Hall of Fame. They're announced by President Josh Rawitch. Manny Minosa, former Negro League star, Mr. White Sox, 9-time All-Star.
Yeah, and he would do a thing where every decade he would play in a game for the White Sox in spring training, and he did it when he was 80 and got a hit.
That's crazy.
And so,
Gil Hodges, longtime Dodger first baseman, won a couple of World Series, and was also the manager of the Miracle Mets in 1969.
Gil Hodges.
Long overdue for Gil Hodges.
Yeah,
especially.
And by the way, I had an opportunity. There was a time back when I first got into radio in the early 90s. I had an opportunity because they had this game that came into Tyler that was helping to raise money to rebuild Mike Carter Field. And Manny Minosa one time, it wasn't there, but somebody that was a part of that group remembers setting us up with a couple of interviews like Harmon Killebrew, Manny Minosa. It was phenomenal. Henry Aaron, of course, was great, but golly, he played. How many decades did he play? Like 8?
Yeah.
Or was that one of the other guys that you're about to mention?
No,
I'm happy for Gil Hodges, though. That's good.
Jim Cott, Twins lefty.
Yep.
He played for a long time, won 16 career Gold Gloves, which is the second most all-time. Only Greg Maddux had more. Tony Oliva, former Twins star, won a batting title as a rookie of the year. 8-time All-Star, 2 World Series as a coach. Buck O'Neil, Negro League star and manager.
That's the one.
And helped create the Negro League Baseball Museum, which is, I believe, in Kansas City.
It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite things. I've been there in my 10 or so Kansas City trips. I've been there 3 times and it's a great thing to do because I've had time to kill in time before a flight where, you have to change your flight at the last minute or, I booked it late on Sunday, and so I had lots of time, and I went there. I've seen everything at that museum, and yeah, good for Buck O'Neil. That's a great museum. If you ever go to Kansas City, you got to go to that Negro League Museum.
Yeah, and Bud Fowler, earliest known African-American player in professional baseball, also mentioned. All these are posthumous with the exception of Cat and Leva. And so that was a Golden Days era ballot for those first 4, and then the early baseball era ballot, which is all that gets very kind of confusing, quite frankly. But those 6 are going in. And then the big, point of contention was former Phillies star Dick Allen.
Yeah, that hurt.
He passed away last December. He's obviously been a big point of contention for people who have been arguing about the Hall, and he had missed it by 1 vote back in 2014. This time around, he missed it by only 11 votes. So that was kind of the big, controversy, if there was one for baseball folks, was his omission.
Dick Allen, he was not the easiest, friendliest. Paul and Craig, you have that list of our guests. Do you have the list of our guests?
I haven't updated in a while, but yeah.
Didn't we have him on?
Dick Allen?
No, I don't think so.
No, I think so.
I don't think so. I think we had a Negro League, the
guy from the museum.
Yeah, from the museum we had on.
But
I know
Dick
that.
Allen wouldn't have been Negro Leagues. He would have been with the Cardinals
No,
and
I know. I'm
Phillies.
saying of the things that we mentioned, though, that's the one thing I know that we did have. I don't recall Dick Allen ever being on the show. I could be wrong.
I thought we did, but maybe not. But Tony Oliva, Rod Carew were on the same team back with the Twins with Killebrew, and they really never did much. But they had some lineups that were dangerous back in the day, and Jim Cott, of course, one of the pitchers then as well.
Yeah, we definitely haven't had him,
Okay.
based on what I've seen. And baseball's celebrating by being in a lockout, I guess. Is how they're going to
got to put something out there.
Got to keep that momentum going.
How dangerous is for them? How dangerous is it for them to have a lockout right now when there's so many more opportunities for people to put their attention elsewhere?
It's not great, especially when you just had one of the seasons where you get to showcase the future of the league. You know, Fernando Tatis Jr., Vlad Guerrero Jr.,
a couple of years ago like that, right?
You know, Bryce Harper, you know, all these great young players that are super exciting and playing, what's his name, Wander Franco, you know, all these different players you have. And now, I think it'll be bad. See, right now, this is the time to be in a lockout. You're not doing anything anyway.
Yeah.
But if they're in a lockout on April 1st, then everybody's got their head way up their backside.
Mm-hmm. Yep, okay.
Yeah, and just a couple more. Big hire out of LSU. Frank Wilson returning to Baton Rouge. He is back with now the new staff under Brian Kelly. He's going to be like the associate head coach. And, you know, I saw Leonard Fournette say it's the greatest running backs coach I've ever had at any level, and I'll be around Baton Rouge more. So you already had that kind of response. And Frank Wilson, I mean, he knows Louisiana. And, you know, had a head coaching job at McNeese, but decided to step down to go pursue this opportunity. So I think that's a big-time hire for LSU. And I think, you know, anybody who knows Frank Wilson knows him in LSU and Louisiana. I mean, that's gonna be that's a smart hire by Brian Kelly.
Yeah,
smart hire.
They had, remember Tommy Moffitt was something we didn't bring up, the strength and conditioning coach at LSU, who's out, and I saw him retweeting quite a few things with Baylor in recent days, only because it was brought to my attention, and he was one of the legendary strength and conditioning coaches as well.
Yep, and I'll close it out with this: NIL, University of Texas. Tired of losing, baby. We're just going to go all in on NIL. And they are going all in on NIL. There's an organization, Horns with Heart, that was set up to specifically pay for their offensive linemen. They are all in. They're calling it the Pancake Factory, and each offensive lineman will be paid $50,000 per year. And it will be part of free use for not only their NIL, but also charitable causes. Like a portion of that will go to the charity of their choice. All told, it comes out to $800,000 combined for the whole group, $50,000 apiece annually. And as you might imagine, there's a few recruits that have taken notice, and then also a few other position groups who are like, well, where's our money? I saw a defensive back, I think it was like DeMarvion Overshone or something, and he's like, well, what about the linebackers, the DB? There's something he said, and you know, apparently they're working on that. There will be another Horns for Heart. It'll just be named something different, I suppose. But yeah, they're just going all in, and to basically can tell recruits now, like, hey, if you play offensive line, you get $50,000 every year.
All right, but here's the problem. It has never been about them accumulating and compiling elite talent.
No.
It's about fits. It's about developing even more so once you're on. They're not going to get any more. They're always in the top 5 or 10. I mean, okay, they're going to get maybe 1 or 2 more 5-stars. Maybe they'll get Quinn Ewers. I don't know. It's never been the problem. The problem has been you don't do anything enough with them once they get on campus. And there's a culture issue. And it's so obvious.
But it is a school where they really need offensive linemen and they need a quarterback, and NIL can, you know, money whip these guys and get them to come. Whereas if they were looking at it on the outside and saying, okay, who actually is the better football program? Are you picking UT?
No.
Like, if we're not saying tradition, if we're saying right now, Baylor or Texas, where are you going to go win more right now? You're going to go to Baylor. Oklahoma, Texas, where are you going to go right now to win more? You're going to go to Oklahoma. And you can do that down the line. Not every Big 12 school, but a lot of them. So, I mean, I know what you're saying. You're absolutely right. It's the attitude, if anything, more so than the talent level. I think sometimes, though, the talent level is vastly overrated because the recruiting services overrate them. Why? Because they're going to Texas. And you see it happen all the time. But, I mean, shoot, if you're a guy choosing now, you may need some cash. So you choose Texas, and you get a guy you weren't going to get otherwise. But, yeah, there is a there's the start of, it's not the start, but it's just a lot more of the NIL stuff, and we'll see. Obviously other schools are already like, well, how do we do this? And who knows where it stops. But if you're an O-lineman at Texas, you're going to be getting $50K a year.
I do know that there are some Baylor alums and I guess maybe even donors or fans who are a little bit nervous about whether Baylor is has their future in good hands when it comes to that. And I think that they're working on it. I know the site, we've done some things with players when it comes to NIL. One quick women's basketball note, because Paul wanted me to add at the end. UConn's Player of the Year last year, and Paige Beckers had that knee injury. There was a thought she's out for the year, 6 to 8 weeks after a tibial plateau fracture. So that's that. And Florida men's basketball, stunned by Texas Southern last night.
Got thumped.
15 points to Texas Southern. Didn't they come in one year and beat Baylor early in the year? Was it Texas Southern or was it somebody else that I'm thinking about? Craig, that it?
He's saying, don't look at me.
It was Texas Southern, yeah. All right, when we come back, David Hellman on the Cowboys. They've had a few extra days. They have Washington coming up, a team that's won 4 in a row somehow to get to 6-6, and they're now a player. Who knows what happens with the Cowboys at one point with that massive lead in the East, and it could shrink a game, full game, if they're not careful this weekend. This is Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. Pioneer Still and Pipe. I got a hold of Braden Embry. He handles the marketing there for that great company that's been in business since 1943. Been through everything imaginable. Think about all of what that business has seen around this country and the world. The warehouse that I've been telling you about on the loop, just off the loop. The warehouse, office building are both now fully framed. And now they're sheeting the walls. I got to be careful. I say that very slowly. It's also taking shape. You can see the sheer sides of the building from the road. I know, Smokey, you've mentioned this in your ads. The property is a game changer for our business. We have always prided ourselves on service. Now we'll be able to carry much more inventory and have much more efficient loading process that will save customers even more time. They're always making sure that they do what they can for you. Some businesses say it and they deliver, and some businesses say it and they have delivered since 1943. And again, they're not sure yet of the official move-in date. Pioneer Steel and Pipe with metal, pipe, steel, all that big, heavy stuff where you build things, buildings, metal buildings, big, large structures. They have it. Waco and Bryan, pioneerboys.com.
Baylor University is where lights shine bright. So, let there be light. Let there be roommates and teammates, scholarship and championships. Let there be fresh starts and new traditions, fast friendships and lasting impacts. Let there be laughter. Let there be joy. Let there be light. Baylor University, where lights shine bright.
Born in Waco, Brotherwell Brewing exists to serve the Central Texas community with locally crafted beer of the highest quality. They want to bring Central Texas closer to the brewing experience so everyone can enjoy well-made beer as much as they do. For 2.5 years, they've been bringing high-quality beer to Central Texas at their location on Bridge Street in East Waco. Brotherwell Brewing believes in community and bringing people together to enjoy products made in their community. So for your game day, whether it's a tailgate or at home, stop by Brotherwell Brewing for high-quality craft beer made right here in Central Texas, 400 East Bridge Street, and check them out online at brotherwell.com.
At Ideal MRI, we feel blessed to be a part of the Waco community. We're a small family business right here in Central Texas, and our goal is to bring down the cost of healthcare while maintaining high quality. At times like this, the cost of healthcare has never been more important, and unfortunately, significant illnesses and injuries still occur. That's why Ideal MRI is open and here to serve you through the difficult time. We offer premium MRIs just like a hospital with state-of-the-art technology and specialists, but you'll pay less. Sometimes thousands of dollars less, whether you're using insurance or not. At Ideal MRI, we accept most insurance and there are no hidden costs, even offering financing if that's needed, everything included in the price, and you'll not get something as a surprise in the mail later on. If you need an MRI, ask your doctor about Ideal MRI. They'll know. You can schedule an appointment safely from home online in minutes at idealmri.com or give us a call, 833-IDEAL-MRI, idealmri.com.
Jay from Pickup Outfitters here with your holiday gift-giving guide. So it seems the air fryer is an, air quotes, hot Christmas gift this year. An air fryer? Come on, really? First, an air fryer is not a real fryer. It has no grease. It's a mini convection oven. And you probably already have one of those in your house. So you're just wasting money on something that's not even real. You know what is real? A grill guard. It's made of real steel and it protects the truck of someone you love. And you can get one for that special person on your Christmas list at Pickup Outfitters. So avoid common Christmas gift mistakes like house slippers, a beard, nose, ear, hair, and eyebrow trimmer. Or a man purse? You better not. Give a Christmas gift that says, I love you. A grill guard, a toolbox, running boards, and other great gifts at Pickup Outfitters. You can even get a gift certificate to let them pick out whatever they want. Pickup Outfitters is the Christmas gift headquarters. 220 Lake Erie Drive in Waco.
Automatic Chef Canteen is a full-service micro-market vending and office coffee provider with state-of-the-art vending equipment, a wide variety of products, and offering custom-fitted micro-market vending office coffee solutions for your employee break room. You want a full break room solution and a workplace oasis? Well, Automatic Chef Canteen, locally owned and operated for over 50 years in Central Texas, also includes in-house mechanics on call 24/7 for fast, reliable service and maintenance. Automatic Chef Canteen, 6900 Imperial Drive in Waco, or online at automaticchefcanteen.com.
The Big Finish sales event is going on now at Allen Samuels. The new 2022 Ram 1500 Lone Star Quad Cab has values up to $6,750 or 2.9% for 72 months, plus $2,000 bonus cash. First responders get an extra $500. Ram, the winner of the prestigious J.D. Powers Initial Quality. The Big Finish sales event is now at Allen Samuels, 201 West Loop 340 in Waco.
Come by. Let's be friends.
See dealer for details. All offers have credit requirements.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio.
Here Pollard. Oh, to Pollard. Turn it on. Carlson. He gets past him. Look at Pollard taking it for the touchdown.
It's time for our weekly segment with David Hellman of DallasCowboys.com. The 5 o'clock hour is sponsored by Edward Jones Investments with financial advisor Ben Erlinson, who'll navigate you through today's financial climate. Edward Jones, making sense of investing.
Now here's David Smoak, Paul Catalina, and Craig Smoak.
Sikkim 365 Radio, 365 Sports. David Hellman, DallasCowboys.com, joins us for his weekly segment. And David, barring an unforeseen setback, the Cowboys will have their whole starting defensive line together for the first time this year, right?
That's the hope, yeah. I'm glad you couched it that way. I think they're going to be monitoring Randy Gregory and Neville Gallimore closely this week when they get back to practice, but the plan is for those two guys to be available this weekend. It's obviously been a long time coming. I think Randy and DeMarcus Lawrence only played one game this year together, and Neville hasn't played at all. So, we've been talking about this for what feels like a month and a half of these defensive reinforcements, and, knock on wood, but it looks like it's going to happen this weekend.
How do you think that changes what Dan Quinn is able to do? And look, he's been successful defensively most of the year without them, save for a couple of bad games. But does it change where maybe Micah Parsons is? Does it change what they can do with Leighton Vander Esch and different guys behind the front line?
I think the most fun thing about Dan Quinn is he just appears to be a coach who is really good at maximizing his guys, creating the best matchups, and using guys in as many ways as possible. So I think the overall plan is going to be the same, but now you just have the luxury of more talent. Like we've seen, like Micah Parsons has done a lot of this out of necessity because they haven't had their edge rushers. Well, now what can you do when you've got a linebacker who can play the edge and blitz like him, in addition to two very, very good edge rushers, another penetrating defensive lineman in Neville Gallimore. We already started to see some of this last week. Like if you go back and look at the passing situations, you were seeing Micah Parsons playing outside next to DeMarcus Lawrence, who would kick in at defensive tackle. I think it gives Dan Quinn that much more flexibility to do fun things like that. Like you can overload one side of an offensive line with two different rushers and not give up any firepower on the other side. It's just fun little stuff like that, Dan Quinn has been able to move guys around and make the most of his players out of necessity. But like I said, now he has the luxury of having several very talented, very versatile pieces. I mean, you don't want to put too much expectation on the first game with all of these guys, but as we go through these last 5 weeks, I would be disappointed if this isn't a much more explosive pass rush than what.
How big was last week in that was about as much adversity as you could cake onto a team, COVID and injuries and, the 3 games in 12 days that they, without all their weapons, without everything going right, were able to gut out a win against a Saints team who admittedly is reeling, but even still that there are times where you could have lost that game easily and let it get away from you.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not going to try to sell that as an impressive win, me personally. Not with what the Saints were missing. Obviously, not having Alvin Kamara, not having your offensive line. The list goes on for them. But still, to play as poorly as they have for a variety of reasons. They lost 3 out of 4. That stretch really didn't go the way that they wanted it to. But to salvage a win, an NFC win at that, and get to 8-4, at the very least, you stop the bleeding. And it's a cliche for a reason, but we're not trying to impress a playoff committee here. All you got to do is win the game. Nobody cares how it happens. And then you get 4 or 5 days off for the first time in a month. You can get some guys rested. We already talked about the guys coming back from injury and COVID. When they play against Washington, this should be, again, knock on wood, but this should be as healthy and as rested as they've been, maybe even since the opener. Because even coming off the bye week, they didn't have Dak Prescott. So yeah, this is huge, and now you get to refocus. So yeah, I mean, I think it was not a pretty game at all, but nobody cares. They got the job done, and now they can kind of turn the page on that very turbulent month. And hopefully things are a lot smoother in this final home stretch.
Zeke Elliott, Jerry Jones seems to think he's going to be fine and healthy and 100% for the rest of the year, but the evidence on the field suggests otherwise in that he is certainly slowed by that knee. And now I know that there are certain things that he brings, especially in the pass game when it comes to protection, that you can't really replace because he is so good at it. But is there any thought to just limiting his workload a ton so that he's better for the playoffs?
I mean, again, going back to what I just said, I think that's what this time off was for. I mean, from the time the Cowboys landed back in Dallas from New Orleans, they've been off. They came in yesterday for meetings and stuff, but they haven't been on a football field. They're off again today. So that's almost 5 days where you're not putting strain on your body, and hopefully that's been very useful for Zeke. Nobody's 100% right now, certainly not any running back. So I guess the short answer is yes, I would like to see a more even split of carries between Zeke and Tony Pollard, at least while Zeke is dealing with this knee injury. I think Zeke ran the ball 13 times last week to Pollard 7. I think you could get that closer to even. But if Zeke is healthy enough to go, and I think he is, especially after having this time off, he's too valuable to me as an overall football player. I mean, like you just mentioned, the stuff that he can do in pass protection, the stuff that he's done for Dak as an emergency option in the passing game, it's too valuable to sit him down or even diminish his workload. I don't want to diminish his snap count. I wouldn't mind diminishing his carry count a little bit. But these are just the trials and tribulations that you go through in December of the football season.
The Washington football team this week, the first of 2 and 3 weeks, and this is a team that's on a roll right now, David. But matchup-wise, especially if Amari Cooper is back to near full speed from COVID and all the wide receivers available, this appears to be a matchup a nightmare for the Washington on defense and a really good matchup for the Cowboys on offense, given the fact that the I keep wanting to say the old name, but the football team can't seem to stop the pass.
I mean, you say that, and I don't necessarily disagree with you, but they held a pretty damn good Raiders offense to 15 points last weekend. They held Tampa Bay to 19 points. I haven't I'm not super versed in Washington as of yet. I also tried to make the most of the long weekend. So I'm not up to speed on everything that they've done, but the results speak for themselves. 4 straight wins, and I don't think they've allowed more than 21 points in any of those wins. Like I said, they frustrated the heck out of Tampa Bay a few weeks ago. They held Las Vegas to 15 points. So something that they're doing is working. And you think about the fact that the Cowboys have been out of sync on offense for a month now. I absolutely give the edge to the Cowboys offense, but I have a feeling they're going to have to go out and prove it. Nothing from what I've seen from either of these teams suggests that Washington make it easy on them.
What do you think? Is it the running game and the fact that they haven't been able to really get that going that's kept the Cowboys out of sync on offense?
Yeah, I think without trying to simplify it too much, I think for a variety of reasons, opponents don't respect the Cowboys' passing game enough to let their running game get going. Like, this is a classic. To me, it seems like a classic case. You go back a few years before Amari Cooper got here, where teams were just doing everything they could to limit the run, knowing that the Cowboys couldn't expose them with the pass. I think some of that's because Amari Cooper and CeeDee Lamb have been unavailable recently. Some of that is just the disjointedness of the offense. I don't think Dak Prescott trusts his protection as much as he would prefer. I think he gets patient with his reads because of it. I think he and his receivers have been on different pages at times and not been clear in their communication and what they're supposed to do. I think all of that stuff ties together. But the bottom line is, because of all of that, opponents can key on the run, and the Cowboys haven't been able to make them get out of those types of looks. I think that's what's happening for a lot of the last month. And, like you said, it looks like a favorable matchup on paper. I hope that's true. I think it's supposed to rain in D.C. on Sunday afternoon, so this could be another challenge for them. But I think they've got to remind people that they have a passing offense that's worth being afraid of before they can get that run game going the way they want to.
All right, David, Brian Kelly, last we talked to you was not official, but it is now. I know that you were maybe less than enthused about that when we talked. What is your assessment of the hire, and can you help him with his Cajun accent?
Yeah, I was confused why he was doing like a genteel Southern accent, because I guess some people in Louisiana talk like that, but not really. It's way more of a Cajun type of situation in the Baton Rouge area. So he definitely needs some work on that. I already said it. I'll keep saying it since I'm on the air with y'all. Like, I would have called Dave Aranda. Certainly seems like what he's doing is very impressive down there, but it's impressive the way Brian Kelly has elevated Notre Dame, not just to a team that's capable of making the college football playoff, but the vast majority of his tenure there, they've been a 10, 11, 12-win team. And that's the type of stability that LSU hasn't really had. LSU's obviously had some great seasons, but they haven't been able to sustain it with 10-win season after 10-win season and just really always be in the top 10 of the rankings year after year the way Trump has. So if Brian Kelly can pull that off, I'm all for it, and I don't care how he talks. You talk like Foghorn Leghorn every day if he's winning 10 games a year. That's pretty much what it comes down to.
Absolutely. David Hellman, Dallas Cowboys with us.com here on Sick of 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
It's Baylor football season, and as always, Bird Colgin Ford supports the green and gold. Hi, I'm Mark Stewart with Bird Colgin Ford. It's time for team celebrations and BU touchdowns. Bird Colgin Ford is your home team when it comes to trucks and tailgates. Ford has the perfect truck for you to host a top-ranked tailgate party. Here's to a winning season for our hometown Bears. Visit us anytime at bkford.com. Buying made simple at BK Ford. Sick 'em Bears.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Cam Heathcott, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Cam Heathcott, covering Conroe and Houston, 936-756-7717 or cam.heathcott@edwardjones.com. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
It's plain and simple. Waco Custom Marketplace is the one-stop shop for what you need for tailgating, from charcoal, cold beer, and wine. And, of course, customize your order with brisket, tri-tip, sausage, wings, smoked pork tenderloin, country-style or pork spare ribs, marinated beef and chicken fajita meat, ground beef and chili, meat, hot dogs, and burgers, buns, seasoning, sauces, chips. There's fresh baked bread and kolaches every day, breakfast sausage links. And you can also customize your favorite cut of steaks from Select, Choice, or Prime, bacon wrap fillets, ribeyes, New York strip, sirloin, T-bone, and porterhouse. Full service butcher shop includes pork, poultry, beef, chicken, and seafood, serving Waco restaurants and families since 1940. Your one-stop shop for beef, pork, poultry, and seafood needs. Waco Custom Marketplace, 425 Lake Air Drive, or WacoCustomMarketplace.com.
Camille Johnson Realtors guide you seamlessly through the process of buying your dream home or selling your current one. Commercial, farm and ranch, or residential, Camille Johnson Realtors can smoothly and successfully lead you through any transaction. With a team of 28 experienced agents who are excited about serving you, Camille Johnson Realtors services the entire greater Waco area. If you're in the market to buy or sell, contact Camille Johnson Realtors, 104 Midway Center in Woodway, or find them online at www.camillejohnson.com. Camille Johnson Realtors, elegant, charming, warm. Welcome home.
When we moved to Texas, we were like fish out of water. We didn't know anyone in our neighborhood until our Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent came to the house. She was so helpful and reassuring, a friendly face with that Texan hospitality I'd heard about. When we purchased a Texas Farm Bureau insurance policy, we knew we were making the right choice. We knew our family would be protected.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.
You know what would make this moment better? Pizza. Dough made from scratch and an Italian family sauce recipe pizza. 3 fresh signature cheeses making a melty blanket of perfection pizza. Like loads of premium toppings like crispy Old World pepperoni, savory Italian sausage, and fresh sliced veggies pizza. That's Marco's Pizza. Visit marcos.com and make any moment better. And with 4 locations in Waco, Belmead, China Spring, Woodway, and soon to open in Robinson. Marco's. Pizza lovers get it.
Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics, the team physicians for Baylor Athletics, diagnosing and treating all sports-related injuries, including concussions. These specialists also provide orthopedic services for athletes and non-athletes alike, whether it's knee or shoulder pain, hand or wrist injury, orthopedic spine care, and even an arthritis and total joint clinic. Trust the doctors Baylor Athletics trusts. Baylor Scott and White, Southwest Sports Medicine and Orthopedics wants to get you back in the game.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. It's time for our weekly segment with John McClain of the Houston Chronicle, brought to you by Pioneer Steel and Pipe, where customer service is their main focus, and best in metal, steel, and pipe for large or small projects, with 2 locations in Waco and Bryan. Family owned and operated since 1943.
John McClain, Hall of Fame writer, Hall of Fame voter, Hall of Famer, joins us from the Houston Chronicle on Tuesdays in the 5 o'clock hour. John, thanks for your time. Why don't you start with a Sikkim, and we'll end it with that, of course, because you always do. How proud are you, young man?
Sikkim Bears.
There you go.
Let me tell you what happened to me. I was Curly Culp, one of the best nose tackle in NFL history. He was in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. He died, and his funeral was Saturday afternoon. So I was on my way to the funeral home in Pearland, south of town. I had to get inside before the game was over, and I just felt so guilty, but I sat in the back, and I did look at my phone to keep up with how Oklahoma State was driving. And then the service started, and they got close to the goal line. I had to turn it off, and I thought, sure, Baylor was going to lose. And then while the service was going on, there were a lot of former Oilers in there. There were a lot of people I knew, and so I was in the back. And one person across from me looks at me and starts making faces and doing her hand kind of up and down. And I'm like, do I have a booger in my nose? I mean, what have I got wrong? Did I spill food on my suit? And I don't know what they're doing. And then another person sitting up closer, a former Oiler, turned around and looked at me and gave a big smile and a thumbs up. And I thought it was because they wanted to say, hey, good to see you. So I gave a smile and a thumbs up. And then one other person a few rows further up was looking around, sitting on the far right side, seeing who was there. This is while the funeral was going on. And looked at me and also had a big smile and gave the okay sign. And I'm like, yeah, I'm okay, thanks. I hope you are too. So I gave it back. And then when it was over, people came over to me like, I can't believe they did it. I can't believe they did it. I said, did what? Baylor won, greatest ending in history. And I'm thinking, you guys feel terrible to be keeping up with that. So I ran outside, left everybody, and I felt guilty for not sticking around and talking. So I ran outside, took out my cell phone, got in the car, watched everything, and I couldn't believe it. I was so happy, so surprised, and so proud to be a Baylor fan since I can remember in 1960 when I went to my first game. But then I thought, sure, the way Oklahoma State was on the move and the way they had dominated the second half. And then when I got my phone and the sun was shining so much, I couldn't really see it. But then I pulled my suit coat off, put it over my head, not while I was driving, but before I left the parking lot, so I could actually see the play. And I watched it about 10 times. And people walking back probably thought I was lost my mind to be doing that. But, man, what a great moment. I thought the greatest victory I can remember was the Miracle on the Brazos of 74 because of what it signified, beating Texas first time in 20 years, and then winning Southwest Conference, not that game, but the game after, for the first time in 50 years. But, man, this to win the Big 12, to beat Oklahoma State and Mike Gundy and do it with such an incredible play at the end of the game. I've always said Jalen Petrie should never have to buy a meal in Waco because he stayed when all the others left. And now McVay, is that his name, McVay? Mm-hmm. That kid should never have to buy a meal, a beer, a glass of wine in anywhere there are Baylor alums.
Yeah, I completely agree with you on that one, John. How big is this, given that this is the year that Texas and Oklahoma made the seismic decision to go to the SEC, and now there's kind of jockeying for position on who's going to be the best football school. And look, right now, Baylor made the first shot at doing that, winning the Big 12 title as Texas and Oklahoma start walking out the door.
And you see what Cincinnati's done to get into the Final Fours. Bearcats on their way to the Big 12. BYU was good. But Baylor has gotten so much attention about what they've done this year, what Dave Aranda has done this year to turn that team around. And Richard Justice used to work for the Chronicles, got a great story on Texas Monthly's website that I tweeted yesterday about Aranda. I read a great one on SI.com when he was out of work and didn't know if he was going to have to take a job in the real world after he left Hawaii. And it's just, people love that kind of story. And I've had so many people ask me, including on my talk shows, could you believe Aranda didn't go crazy after he made that stop? I said, he's thinking about the last 24 seconds or whatever it was. He's thinking Blake Shapen can't come down in the end zone when he takes that snap from the 2-inch line. So he was thinking, and that's what great coaches do. And then I saw another video that showed Aranda walking through the tunnel and players coming up and jumping on his back, and one of them yelling, I know you don't like attention, but. And I thought it was just great. And, there's got to be a shout-out to Mack Rose. I knew Mack was a good AD when he was at the University of Houston. Then he had that cup of coffee at Missouri, and it didn't work out. For him to find Matt Rule and Dave Aranda, Matt was harder to find because he's at Temple, where Aranda had been at LSU 4 years, won a national championship. But for Mack Rose to hire those last two coaches, if he didn't get a bonus for that, he should. Drake McClain, Jimmy Turner, one of those wealthy alums need to write him a nice bonus for hiring those two coaches, not to mention all the other coaches he's hired that are doing great. I can't imagine the state of the Baylor program has been better. And I'm talking about all sports, has been better than it is now.
Yeah, John, and I've talked a lot today in particular about just, it's cool to get there, and some people might look at that as an accomplishment, especially with the year last year, but they got there a couple years ago, and then they fell short, and, to actually go and do it and win when you're not supposed to, and to win in that fashion, I mean, to be on the goal line, 4 downs, and have to get a stop, and to get a stop, I thought that was an unbelievable way to win the game. And who knew? Baylor in defense, right? But here they were, and to win in that fashion, just so dramatic, was incredible.
When I first heard Dave Aranda talk, I thought, how is that guy a defensive coordinator? Defensive coordinators, they spit, they slobber all over themselves. Most of them are raving lunatics when they're coaching. And Aranda seems to be so cerebral, and I'm guessing a lot of his coaching on defense was preparation during the week. And I'm guessing he's probably really big on preparation and game planning. And he's such the antithesis of a defensive coach, at least all the ones that I've known. And a team, if he's a smart, cerebral guy who doesn't make a lot of mistakes and takes blame, players eat that up. Players respect it. And now I want to see him beat Ole Miss and Matt Corral, who could be the first quarterback taken. I want him to not lose the Sugar Bowl like last time, win it, go out in style, and then see next year. I wish they'd go ahead and get rid of Oklahoma and Texas. And I've said this before on every station I do, and I do one in Knoxville, I do one in Nashville on Outkick.com, and I know I've told you guys this, and I love to tell people Vanderbilt is rubbing its hands in glee. Can't wait till the Longhorns get there.
John, last night the Patriots, in brutal conditions up in Buffalo, won their 7th consecutive game, and they did it by throwing 4 passes. And it was so unique. It was an ugly game, but I couldn't stop watching it because it was so intense, because I was like, my God. Your thoughts about what Belichick has done with this team and winning a game by throwing the ball. What a brilliant game plan because of the conditions and the wind.
David, the last time I saw a game like that, I was a junior at Baylor, and I was working in my second year at the Tribune Herald for Dave Campbell and Alice Biddle. And that was a Bills game when O.J. Simpson was there and leading the league. And last night, what blew me away was the bad defense by the Bills coordinator, Leslie Frazier. If you have a rookie quarterback and you know they don't want him to throw, put however many guys it takes in the box on the line of scrimmage. You should be able to shut down a running game. It's not like they had a mobile quarterback. Mac Jones is faking up the middle and taking off around the end. And there's no excuse to not stop that running game and force Mac Jones to throw the ball, but they couldn't do it. Now Buffalo's in danger of not making the playoffs. Tampa Bay and New England next 2 weeks, I think, and then they still don't have a running game. And right now, Belichick's going to win NFL Coach of the Year. Josh McDaniels, the offensive coordinator, coaches Mac Jones, should win Offensive Coordinator of the Year. And Mac Jones will be a runaway for NFL Offensive Rookie of the Year. They're doing a fabulous job. They had no business winning that game in Buffalo last night.
John, the Cowboys banged up a little bit, fighting with COVID. Do you think now, though, that they're getting healthy, that they might be able to put the throttle down on the stretch run, or have they been too sloppy and disjointed the last few weeks to inspire any confidence?
I don't think that they're not going to win the division. even if they blow the game at Washington, they still got Washington to come into Arlington. They've got a 2-game lead. But I think the Cowboys are going to win the division, but I don't put them in the same class right now as Arizona, Tampa Bay, and Green Bay. They're in that group right behind. And can they win a playoff game at home? Of course they can. They've got more talent than a lot of teams. And as long as Dak Prescott's healthy, they're capable of scoring touchdowns. Dan Quinn's doing a good job. But there's a lot of people right now, and I'm not saying Tony Pollard is better than Ezekiel Elliott, but when you watch them run, Pollard is a better runner right now. And so they need to run and run and run the ball some more to control it. That's the way you usually win in bad weather. And, of course, they'll play some games at home. But they need to do everything they can to take pressure off Prescott and the defense. And the way you do that is to have a successful running game. And they've got a 2-pronged running attack that's pretty darn impressive.
John, did you read anything into the comments about David Culley from Nick Caserio, just in terms of not being, certain about his future? Is that a surprise in any way?
Absolutely not. I just filed a column on that that'll be on our sports website, TexasSportsNation.com, in which I said he went on my station, Sports Radio 610 this morning, and he was asked, will David Culley be back? And his answer was, I'm not going to get into any commentary about next season. We're trying to beat Seattle. We're trying to win some games at the end of the season. Everybody, will be evaluated after the season. It'd be stupid to say when you're 2-10, coming off a second shutout, you have the fewest points, the worst point differential, the worst offense, the worst running game, somehow only the 31st worst passing game, thanks to the Bears, and you say somebody's definitely going to be back, that would be asinine. So he handled it correctly, and then that's the thing you worry about after the season. But as you can imagine, everybody here is making a big deal out of it. Caserio doesn't support Culley. Well, had he said, yes, David will sure be back, he might have had to leave town with a posse chasing him.
By the way, I don't know if you saw this or not, but Bill Glass, former All-American guard at Baylor, offensive guard in football, then played for the Cleveland Browns, played in the Canadian Football League. Johnny passed away at the age of 86. He was a part of the Browns' 64 NFL championship team.
Bill Glass was a hell of a player at Baylor. He was a hell of a player for the Browns, and he was an even better guy who was beloved by so many people at Baylor and in the NFL. Condolences to his family, friends, and fans. One of the all-time great Baylor players. Rest in peace.
Thank you, John. Appreciate your time.
Hold up.
There you go, John McClain, Hall of Fame writer. By the way, I was on the phone last night with David Mims, former Baylor football player. He played at Dangerfield High School, a bunch of the Mims family. He played with the Falcons in the NFL. We were just talking about a few things. He loves this show. He has spread the word about this show. He said he randomly one day just saw us pop up, and he's, oh, my God. And I covered David. I covered Dangerfield for many, many years. And he has spread the word, and a lot of former friends of his in the East Texas and Dallas area. One note that I did get a text that was that the Brent Venables signing was somewhat underwhelming. And I don't know, there's some that have felt that way. When we had Teddy Lehman on yesterday, the former All-American, I don't know if he was All-American, probably was linebacker.
Oh, yeah.
He felt like it was a perfect fit because he understands Oklahoma. Now it remains to be seen. Still nothing, though, a day later on Jeff Lebby in the offensive coordinator's position, whether or not that's going to happen, because he has some of the other options. It might be head coaching opportunities, too.
Yeah, Lehman was certainly an All-American. It was a badass, and obviously a big part of that Roy Williams Superman play against Texas, and the pick six that turned into at the goal line against Chris Sims. But, yeah, I mean, it's, the Venables hire I'm cool with, but I'm not, over the moon over it, if that makes sense. I'm not going crazy like, man, they got the guy that they needed. I feel just as strongly about him being able to have success as I do wonder about, whether or not it's going to work. I am totally 50-50 on this. I lean more towards, 55-45 in favor of this being a good hire. I mean, there's no way he could be any more polished than he is at this point, given how long he's been an assistant coach. And to be under Dabo for now several years, I mean, he's ready. He's ready for it. But, a lot of guys have been ready for it and just can't handle it. I have confidence in Venables. I just don't know that I expect it to be like what it's been, because what it's been has been pretty damn good, man.
Yeah. I do think, though, they got themselves in a position where, they got by USC because they didn't know it was coming. So then USC got their guy who they thought they were going to have forever. And Oklahoma is in a place where you don't have to think you have to worry about that. Look, just like Notre Dame didn't have a coach leave since 1907, so they didn't really think of it either. They were maybe in a little bit better position, but unless you want to try to, because there's not, Brian Kelly and Lincoln Riley are the big fish, so unless you want to try to hire Dabo, I don't know where you're going.
Well, that was what the rumors were for a little bit.
But so if you can't hire Dabo, might as well hire a guy who works for Dabo and who also worked for Stoops. And the Stoops line so far has been good, and that culture has been good at what Oklahoma football is. So I think it's the best they could have done given the circumstances without having to go jump into the waters of of whale hunting, because it's the reason whale hunting is it's not that easy to get a whale.
Yeah, all right. Couple of other NFL notes with having John on. Sonny Dykes, TCU's new head football coach, will join us Thursday, by the way, for those of you. We don't have a lot of Frogs fans who watch and listen to us, but that's fine.
Why?
Couple of notes. Jonathan Taylor, Colts running back.
I had a joke, but I'm so awful. Not a lot to begin with. So,
became the 5th player in the history of the NFL rushing for a touchdown in at least 10 consecutive games. That includes names of John Riggins, LaDainian Tomlinson of Waco University High, TCU, Emmitt Smith, and Priest Holmes. He tied Earl Campbell, friend of the show, by having 30 touchdowns in 28 career games. That tied Earl Campbell, Billy Sims, and only Hall of Famers Edgerrin James and Curtis Martin reached that mark in fewer games.
Yeah. Can we get Emmitt Smith to be a friend of the show? I'd like that.
Okay.
We've got 2 guys on the list, LT and Earl Campbell.
Yeah.
So
Billy Sims working on his Heisman week. Also, Adrian Peterson. He had another touchdown. He goes to bouncing 126 career touchdown. Tied Jim Brown for 5th most all-time by a running back in NFL history. Emmitt, LT, Marcus Allen, and Marshall Faulk. He's 10 behind Faulk. I don't think he'll ever get there unless he has a full season, and I don't know how many more games he has left, much less seasons, all right?
Yeah, I mean, that's my favorite player ever. Has not been fun to be a fan the last few years, honestly, but when he was at Oklahoma and being from Palestine, which a lot of people get wrong, I say it's Palestine like the country, but Palestine, Texas, was a huge AD fan, just growing up an hour away and being basically about the same age, and having heard of him, as this legendary high school player, 5-star that everybody in the country wanted. And we'll never forget being at his freshman Oklahoma-Texas game when he broke a big run.
In front of us, yeah.
He was incredible. Good that AD can keep doing what he's doing. I hope he's worked out the financial situation, because I remember reading that a while back. That's always a tough thing to read. So hopefully, having a little bit of longevity has helped out in that regard. And obviously, one of the greatest to ever do it. And you just wonder, he's one of those that you always say, if not for injuries, right? Where could he have possibly ended up? And I think he would have flirted with Emmitt, maybe, at least gotten closer to that record if he wouldn't have had as many injuries as he did. So, I love AD, and it will be fun to see him just keep climbing as high as he can.
He would have needed probably 3, maybe 3.5, 4 full seasons, but he did lose some with the knee injury. Also, was suspended once. One other final note about the NFL, and I watched the games, and some of them drive me crazy, and I saw that blindside hit last Thursday, or the block, whatever, that made no sense on pass protection. 26 games have been decided by a game-winning score in the final play of the year. 26 games, the game-winning score in the final play. Now, you got to have a field goal, whatever. Yeah. And, of course, the one that was talked about so much, the Vikings, it was at Detroit, and Jared Goff threw a touchdown to St. Brown.
Amon-Ra, St. Brown, one of the great names.
What a great, all right.
Yeah, I got a couple notes, and that's what I wanted to get to. I do want to mention with the Oregon job. I mean, Kalani Sitake apparently is going to interview for that. All signs point towards that. I've also seen the BYU side of things. I know we got a lot of BYU fans that maybe can fill me in on if there's been more updated information, but it does look like Sataki will at least interview for Oregon amongst obviously many others, including maybe Dave Aranda, who knows, but that would be interesting. I mean, Sataki and Oregon would be interesting. And then Mark Whipple, I mentioned him earlier. Nebraska looks like it's going to probably be the destination for Mark Whipple of Pitt, as Scott Frost tries to retool that coaching staff of his. So that's where they're leaning as far as him leaving Pitt and the tremendous year they had with Kenny Pickett and heading to Lincoln to go be the OC for the Huskers. So
I couldn't be more thrilled if they could just maybe get a couple of Kenny Pickett's on campus. All right, when we come back, Paul Catalina wraps it up with our top five. His top five, Sikkim 365 Radio and 365 Sports. I was over at Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans last week. Went by there and talked to Carol, Ashley, and Cheyenne. Also picked up a box of cigars to maybe use and relax and smoke over the next few weeks as I'm sitting and cooking or just relaxing somewhere. They have a 48-foot walk-in humidor loaded up with the great brands of cigars from around the world. And a couple of them, and Ashley told me they have new cigars arriving daily. Cohiba, Nicaragua, and the Cohiba, Connecticut are in the humidor, and their humidor as full as it's been in the last couple of years. If you don't know what someone's favorite cigar is, but you're trying to buy somebody who wants cigars for Christmas, gift cards are never out of style, perfect for stocking stuffers, and so much more. And, of course, they have the fresh coffee beans available, whatever flavor, aroma, and taste that you want. And CBD products, including those the gummies, the Divided Dreams, that allows you to fall asleep a lot easier to save yourself some time and sleep. Don's Humidor and Coffee Beans in the Town West Shopping Center off of Valley Mills in Waco.
From the first workout to the last practice, sports is an incredible and rewarding challenge. Hi, everyone. This is Dan Ingham with the First National Bank of Central Texas, and we're proud to support each athlete, every parent, and our educators. From families, small businesses, to the biggest industry, we're here to help. With remarkable products like mortgage lending, we've got banking ideas that fuel big dreams. The First National Bank of Central Texas. Familiar faces making local decisions.
Member FDIC, Equal Housing Lender.
Three Nations Brewing Company has 16 different beers on draft with a new beer every Friday. It also offers 2 air-conditioned tap rooms, a large indoor beer hall, a second-floor mezzanine offering a great overview of the brewing company and equipment and patio where you can relax under the shade. Plus, you can now experience the new Three Nations Beer Garden Grill on our shaded patio with socially distanced seating for your enjoyment. Grab a cold beer and enjoy a bite from our freshly prepared and delicious menu. Street tacos, quesadillas, freshly cooked burgers and dogs, and veggie burgers too. State Fair tornado fries, nachos, and so much more, all prepared and cooked on site. So come visit the award-winning Three Nations Brewing Company on East Vandergrift off I-35 in Carrollton.
With so many companies and policies out there, it gets so confusing shopping for insurance, and I never know if I'm getting the policy that's right for me. Luckily, I met the team at the Nitschke Group Insurance Agency. With the Nitschke Group, you can go to one company and get access to coverage options from many insurance carriers, and you get to speak to a real person about your specific coverage needs. With the Nitschke Group, I know I'm getting the right coverage at the right price. If you need insurance, talk to the experts at the Nitschke Group at 1-800-258-8302.
The year is wrapping up, sports bettors, but BetUS still has your NBA, NHL, college football bowls, UFC, PGA, and of course NFL betting lines up for their 27th year. Live betting on all of it. Log in to BetUS.com today. Use our promo codes SICK'EM125 for 125% bonus on cash, or SICK'EM200 if you use crypto. So use the 3-decade leader, BetUS.com. Use promo code SICK'EM125 and SICK'EM200.
One size fits all. That may be all right for an adjustable belt or cheap sunglasses, but when it comes to your financial needs, no one wants a one-size-fits-all strategy. Ben Erlinson, your Edward Jones financial advisor, knows that his most important goals are yours. That's why he takes the time to understand your needs, knowing you. That's how Edward Jones makes sense of investing. Ben Erlinson, 100 North 6th Street in Waco, 254-759-8533. Edward Jones, member SIPC.
Hey,
Incentives for qualified buyers at 2.9% with $5,000 down cash or trade. TTL Extra. See deal for details.
Get the quality pre-owned car you need now at a price you can afford at Richard Car. Find great deals like a 7-passenger 2016 GMC Acadia for $225 a month, a 2019 Ford F-150 for $430 a month. Plus, get top dollar for your trade now. Richard Car. Pre-owned vehicles go through a 172-point inspection, and our aggressive lenders say yes when others say no. Find your next car or truck at Richard Car today.
At Richard Car, we give you more. Do you or your kids get nervous about going to the dentist? Stonewood Dental, Dr. Steve Childress, he can help.
I've spent a career taking care of patients who as children had bad experiences, and now they're adults that hate going to the dentist. If I get a kid at 3 years old and they come every 6 months and it's a happy experience, it's normal for them. Now they have an accident at 6 or 7 or 8 at school. Now they have a broken tooth or a trauma, and they have to come here. They're used to lights, they're used to water in their mouth, they're used to experience, they already trust us. It's amazing what we can do with that kid without it being a negative thing. But if I see a 6 or 7 or 8 year old that's never been to the dentist, and now they have a trauma or an unfortunate unexpected toothache, it's harder to do that for that kid and it not be somewhat of a negative experience. So bottom line is I try to teach kids and adults and teenagers and everybody the way I'd want my family treated, which is where it's a necessary part of life. You just take care of it. It doesn't have to be that big a deal.
Learn more, stonewood-dental.com.
Welcome back to Sikkim 365 Radio. This is Paul Catalina's Top 5 at 5:55, presented by Champion Salon and Barber. To book your appointment, go to championsalonandbarber.com.
Top 5 things Miami needs to do for Mario Cristobal. Number 5. First off, don't repeat what you did to Manny Diaz. Just don't do it. Like, if you get mad at him or whatever, be upfront with him. Like, you brought him in and don't repeat that. Completely don't do that. That was, I know that, like, Manny Navarro kind of, threw some water on that, but it was still, the way that played out was just terrible.
Yeah, it was. I was just told it was a you thing and we wouldn't understand. And that's basically, that's a good way to just kind of sweep any criticism out of the way, is I just wouldn't understand it. But, I mean, I don't care if I don't understand it. It still looked terrible. It still looked awful to have a guy just hanging by a thread like that. And I know Manny Diaz has left jobs too and, done so under the secret of darkness and things like that. But, yeah, I mean, that could have been handled better. And I just wonder what would have happened if Cristobal said no. Yeah. Like, what were they going to do? Just go in with lame duck Manny Diaz next year? I mean, that's what was weird about it to me, was the fact that it was open-ended enough that if Cristobal did have a change of heart, that they're just sitting there with Manny Diaz. So I guess it's good for Miami. They had their backup option already in place. Problem is he's your sitting head coach. So, yeah.
Here's the problem. College football in the last 2 to 3 weeks has shown the worst dark side, underbelly of disgusting in many ways.
Yeah, that's very true. Number 4, do what you say you'll do. Don't get caught in the weeds. Look, if you need to spend more money on football and you say you're going to, spend that money. Don't get caught in the weeds about it. Apparently, they have a bunch of money they haven't been spending on football, which they would be the only school that's not, apparently. Like, they just now figured out, like, hey, we want to be good. We better spend some money.
Well, I mean, it seems like I don't think they're like, here's the deal, is like the stuff about the money and the things like that. I mean, that seems like it's cleared up. Like, the money's coming in now. Yeah. Like, the money's not the issue. They just have to spend it and be smart about how they spend it, I suppose. But, I mean, that's not going to be an issue. So, yeah, I mean, here's the thing with Miami right now. They're telling their fan base, we're all in. Like, we're all in as we're ever going to be, with money, with our coach, with everything. So, this is it. Like, this is the return of the U, or it's not. And if it's not, then we probably need to stop waiting for the return of it, because we've been waiting for a while now. And I know they haven't been, like, egregiously bad. Like, they've been just okay. It's been most of the problem. But, yeah, I mean, they're ponying up, man. They're going all in, so we'll see what happens.
Yeah, 3, reduce the number of people involved.
Good luck.
Whittle that down.
Yeah, you tell those egomaniacs.
Pry that power from their fingers. I mean, that's the thing. You got a lot of people who think they're awfully important, obviously, and then you got a party of 50, or let's just say it's 50 people that all have a say in something. Well, good luck saying, well, these 45 deserve it still, and you 5 don't. I mean,
this is such a Miami thing too, and I'm not even talking about the university. I'm talking about the city, to have 50 people. Like, what do you talk politically or whatever? My buddy, his first wife was from Miami, and his wedding was the biggest cluster F I've ever been to in my life. I mean, just a Miami thing to have too many people involved. And I could tell tons of stories about that, but he would, drive down here and hit me with a rock. Number 2, get out of his way. You brought him in, you're paying him a bunch of money. Get out of his way. Let him go recruit. Let him do that. The state, like Howard Schnellenberger had it, the state of Miami, that you're going to own Tampa South. That's how he did it. They own Tampa and South, and let him go and try and do that. I think you can't really do that anymore because you've let too many other people move into that neighborhood, and most of them don't even live in Florida. You're talking about Georgia and Alabama and everybody else. So, but you got to try to at least get your foothold back in the area. And if you gave me, take your pick out of, one city to recruit out of, Miami would be probably one of the ones I'd pick. Yeah. There's a ton of talent out there. So, but get out of his way and let him get that talent and bring it back to the U.
Yeah, I mean, that's what you should do really with any coach, is just get out of their way. I think it's the ones that meddle are the ones that create unnecessary problems for themselves. And I'm sure he's smart enough, even though obviously this was a job that he really, really wanted, and they had that as probably some little bit of leverage, but he's still smart enough, or his agents are smart enough to to have gone over that, I would hope, of the amount of control and the amount of, or lack of, disruptions they may face. But yeah, I mean, the last thing they need is a bunch of people who don't know how to be a football coach trying to be the football coach.
And number 1, build him a stadium. Miami died the day they tore down the Orange Bowl in some regard. Part of their soul, which is gone. That was an intimidating place to play. And look, it was one good sneeze on the outside from falling over. I get it. But not to be forward thinking, we'll just go play where the Dolphins play. Miami is kind of like, for people in our listening group, it's kind of like Dallas, where it's really Dallas forward. It's really spread out. There's not really concentrated, pockets of stuff to where, it's really spread out. And to put them there would be like telling SMU to go play at AT&T Stadium. Like it's a long way for your fans to even get there, and traffic both ways, and especially not even the fans, but the people who are going to get rowdiest are the students, and they don't go.
Yeah, I mean, I'm all for any team having their own stadium. I don't know what all has gone into the history of Miami and why things have always been the way they have been as far as the Orange Bowl and now Hard Rock and all of that. But yeah, I mean, if you're the U and you can afford to build a stadium, it looks like they've got this billionaire that's talking about doing just that. They can do that. Yeah, that would be incredible. I mean, we saw what McClain Stadium did for Baylor when they built that palace just down the road from us. So yeah, I mean, they had their own before, obviously, with Floyd Casey, but having a brand new stadium, I mean, the shot in the arm that provides you, especially when you're winning, is incredible. And it brings all sorts of other things, like all these playoff games and stuff that we got going on here constantly. So, yeah, that'd be a good move.
That it, Paul?
Yep.
That's a lot of asking. Now, can they follow up on it? I agree with all of them. I do. The order that all seem to be, get out of his way, build him an on-campus stadium or something close, and stop being too many hands in the cookie jar.
And I know you guys don't really believe me when I say this, but I think I don't know if I genuinely feel this, but I'm willing to take the risk in that it was better in the 90s when all 3 programs were good. And to me, it's like, there's going to be heartbreak sometimes, but it's like getting dumped by a supermodel as opposed to, gutter trash. So I'll take it if it means that we don't have to play 5 and 6 games at the end of the year to see who's going to a bowl. It's just sad.
Yep. All right. Thank you to Jack McKenzie and Armstrong Sims behind the scenes. Appreciate our guests today. More to come tomorrow. Approaching that Army-Navy game. We'll focus in on that this week, plus the Heisman Trophy and that on Saturday. And Texas high school football entering the semifinal round. And I'll sit down here in just a moment. We'll do our high school football podcast brought to you by Peters Chevrolet. Thanks to everybody. Armstrong, tomorrow let's play that Richard Carr Motors TikTok video of them celebrating at the dealership after the Jaron McVay play against Oklahoma State. For Paul Catalina, for Craig Smoak, back at it tomorrow, right at 3 o'clock. Thank you so much. I'll be on the text line a little bit tonight if you watch some replay videos and want to talk about what we discussed or what we didn't. Good night. Sick of 365 Radio, 365 Sports.
MRI is a small family business right here in Central Texas. We're open to support you while lowering the cost of healthcare bills. When you need an MRI, ask your doctor for an ideal MRI. Visit us at idealmri.com or call us at 833-IDEAL-MRI.
Stepping into the boots of a U.S. Army officer can add confidence and leadership skills to your son or daughter's career path. See all the things they can achieve in our boots at GoArmy.com. U.S. Army Waco Recruiting Company, 254-598-8131 or 254-776-1543.
After my first car accident, I feared the biggest damage would be to my wallet. I expected a mountain of bills and a long, drawn-out process. But my Texas Farm Bureau insurance agent was there when I needed her and helped me get back on my feet and in my car in no time. Instead of a hassle, I got reassurance and a quick recovery.
Stop by and see our agents at one of our 3 McClain County locations.
Coverage and discounts are subject to qualifications and policy terms and may vary by situation.